Part 237. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2367. After this battle, Jia Yan had to adjust his current mentality when facing the Domain Lord. The Territory Lord is powerful, but the problem is that he is already a Territory Lord. As a person in the same line, he is also powerful, and he is also a fighting Territory Lord. Genius-type beings that usually appear among superstars are compared to most of the Domain Lords in the outside world are much more powerful. So, just keep your mind at ease and be balanced. The existence of this level is very similar to the past. As long as you are stronger than them, you are the father and you can show off your power. For example, right now, I stole things from both parties. They dare not say anything at all and can only laugh. Chatting with the three Bachanio territory lords who were following him back obediently, Jia Yan felt that in the past, when he faced the territory lords, he always felt a surge of heart disappear. There is no longer any sense of uniqueness, nor is there any fear emerging from the bottom of my heart. Haha, Your Excellency Jia Yan is really powerful. It seems that you were really merciful when you competed with my three brothers. Otherwise, the three of us would definitely not be your opponents. Yes, when I saw Lord Jia Yan just now, I felt that Lord Jia Yan was really kind. With his performance just now, even if you say that you are a senior domain master, I will believe it, ha 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 ha. The three territory lords of the Northern Morning Rain forces once again took a lower stance when communicating with Jia Yan. If before, they thought that their three brothers could draw a tie with Jia Yan, except that they could not kill him. Now there is no longer even the thought of a tie. Just now, Jia Yan penetrated 3 in one wave and defeated the other 3 domain lords who suppressed Bachanio's forces. None of them had the power to parry. Even the elephant trunk domain lord lost his elephant trunk, and the other 2 domain lords did not dare to escape. To escape, the only option is to obediently take out the fine money. If they had a better relationship with Jia Yan, if they had just made suggestions and asked Jia Yan to help them eliminate the 3 enemy domain lords, presumably at this moment, the force that had been causing headaches for the Northern Morning Rain forces for a long time might have been overturned. It's a pity that Jia Yan doesn't have this idea, and he doesn't need to eliminate that force. For this strong man, his relationship with Bachanio's force is not that good. Even if he conquers that force himself, he wants to taking over would be a lot of trouble, and in the end it might even end up being more of a loss than the gain due to interference from outside forces, so it was simply a normal choice for him to let him go. At the moment, the 3 Northern Morning Rain territory masters are trying their best to please Jia Yanji, because they not only know that if they please Jia Yan, they may get more protection from this powerful man in the future, but another point is that, Jia Yan's strength is so terrifying. If they don't treat him well and make Jia Yan have ill intentions towards them, then they may not even be able to escape. A few of you were overly concerned, but those fines. No, this matter was solved by Your Excellency Jia Yan. The 3 of us couldn't deal with those 3 guys, so when Your Excellency Jia Yan got their fine, we had no idea at all. There is no need for Your Excellency Jia Yan to put this in your heart. When the Northern Territory Lord heard that Jia Yan wanted to mention the fine, he directly interrupted Jia Yan's words. Well, then, I'll accept it reluctantly, Jia Yan said, seemingly a little embarrassed. In fact, it was impossible for him to spit it out, but this way, both parties would look better. Returning to the Northern Chanio forces, Jia Yan didn't say much. He tore open a rift in the subspace and penetrated into the interior of Edisha. The act of coming back was just an attitude, because just now Edisha followed him to the battlefield. It can be said that Jia Yan's home is everywhere. When Jia Yan and the 3 brothers returned to the Bachanio force, the news of their great victory in this battle had already spread throughout the force. Of course, it was probably the 3 Bachanio people who had done it in advance. Hands and feet, in short, everyone knows. People welcoming the victorious team began to spread out from thousands of kilometers away from the Force's home planet, all the way to the inside of the Force. But when Jia Yan saw the team, he had already left the normal space and stopped enjoying it. After all, it was not Jia Yan's original intention to have too much involvement with this force that was destined not to have much interaction. Not only were the three Northern Chennai faction members very disappointed, but the ordinary people in the faction also saw something from Jia Yan's actions. But a big victory is a big victory. Regardless of whether the hero of the big victory accepts everyone's praise or not, in short, this big victory does not lose its luster because of it. The force that has been fighting for many years has now become a defeated enemy. In the future, the pressure on that aspect will be greatly reduced. The forces in Baikonur are still extremely excited. Jia Yan did not go to see too many external celebrations because he had too many similar experiences in his relatively long and colorful life. He is the protagonist every time. This time he doesn't want to be in the spotlight anymore. Maybe he is old. When this happens, I miss my hometown a little bit. But in the black hole area, those powerful powers can actually make the connection between me and the clone become indistinct. It is difficult to control it, so I can't go back to the clone for the time being. Seeing the scenery of my hometown, I had no choice but to give up. After Jia Yan entered the Edisha Star, he went straight back to his big room, closed the door, and began another small retreat with the door locked. Of course, it can't be said to be in seclusion. As mentioned before, he has just been promoted. In a short period of time, his strength should not be substantially improved. But the strength mentioned there is not that the overall strength cannot be improved, but that it cannot be improved in energy. The brainwave power will definitely not change, but other aspects, such as combat experience, improvement of combat moves, and combat skills, etc., these are all. It is a place where progress can be made. Master, are you going out to talk to them today? They are so stupid, aren't they? They always think that you have reached the Domain Lord level. Aditha wants to laugh when she sees it. The little light and shadow Mosquito, after getting Jia Yan's permission, flew around Jia Yan, flying around and around, very happy. Yes, they are stupid. Adisha, how far is your building? Jia Yan was speechless and asked, dumbfounded, how far Adisa had built its brain building. If he doesn't fix it quickly, he won't dare to mention to Adisa that he is already the Domain Lord. This is too annoying, and he has to be careful what he says. Wow, Master, you really care about Adisha. Adisha is so touched. The Zhinao building is already halfway through construction. Take your time later. Adisha is not in a hurry. You are not in a hurry, I am. Jia Yan almost blurted out these words. It makes him have to hide his strength secretly in his own home, which is too cowardly. He was really helpless. It was very tiring to have a subordinate like him who had reached Territory Lord himself and had to improve his intelligence and brain. However, Adisha has enhanced her computing power, which is also a good thing for Jia Yan. In the future, he will go to more and more places and encounter more and more powerful people. Maybe Adisha will not be able to handle it. It is better to let it reach a further level neatly now, otherwise it will be more troublesome to do it in the future. As for Jia Yan while he was practicing, but Adisa was standing in the way and kept chattering, Jia Yan was not that unhappy. Because his seclusion this time is not that important, and he has already had the ability to multi-purpose. It is definitely enough to leave one person to communicate with Adisha and other things to consider cultivation. Ever since, Jia Yan was communicating with Adisha in the subspace, and time slowly passed by again. Time passed very quickly for him here, but for the local power group with surging undercurrents from the outside world, time became very slow. All the forces were shocked after the Northern Morning Rain forces defeated the forces of the strong elephant trunks, especially when they found out that this matter was accomplished by a mysterious domain master invited by the Northern Morning Rain forces. At this time, everyone was even more shocked and began to inquire about Jia Yan's information. Jia Yan actually doesn't have much information, but almost all of it is public. Except for what happened to him and the process of turning enemies into friends with the people from Baichanao's forces, other aspects can be easily found out. What? This Jia Yan actually came from the outside world, and the reason is that the Lord of the Rain territory stole one of Jia Yan's subspace planets. This Jia Yan still has the talent for subspace. When he fought the three domain lords before, he didn't use the talent for subspace at all. You must pay attention. Such a terrifying strong man is still a subspace talent. In other words, with his strength, even if he is not at the level of a senior domain lord, it is difficult for senior domain lords to kill him. In our area in the starry sky, he has almost reached the status of a senior domain lord. Damn it, that rootless duckweed like Northern Chennai force. We don't care about such external forces. We only regard them as pawns to contain other forces. We didn't expect to be embraced by them like this. What should we do now? Is good. Don't worry, the acquaintance process between Jia Yan and Baichanayu was not a friendly one, so their current relationship is definitely not that unbreakable, otherwise Jia Yan would not have let go of the Elephant Trunk Territory Lord that day. I am afraid that most of them are still in a relationship of mutual use. We only need to destroy it a little, and this alliance will be declared broken. But even if it breaks down, Jia Yan's single-person strength cannot be resisted by ordinary beings, so the biggest problem at the moment is his own thoughts. If he wants to fight against the forces in our area, even if he is against, I'm afraid they will all have a big headache due to the power of those senior domain lords. Then the problem will be easy to solve. This Jia Yan is not a warrior who can be defeated by force, so we must learn from Baichanayu, turn enemies into friends with him, and try to be friends with him. Go and find out, this so-called territory Lord Jia Yan, whatever you want, we can try to give it to you. A strong person has status. Back then, Jia Yan would be hunted to death even if he passed by a certain force, and that was when he was moving in subspace. But in just a few years, he had advanced from a top mid-level star to a domain lord, and the whole thing had changed drastically. He was regarded as a sweet man. Not only did he stay in the hinterland of a power and no one dared to say anything, but even a large number of surrounding powers became very friendly after learning about his information. It's just that these forces have no good way to meet with Jia Yan alone. Otherwise, they may come to try to force the relationship between Baichanayu and Jia Yan to become bad and support them instead. Power. It's just that Jia Yan has not published his contact information at the moment. Therefore, if these forces want to contact Jia Yan, they can only go through the Baichanayu forces. This will undoubtedly make it difficult for forces with similar ideas to get through Baichanayu. This level of rain power. The method is also very simple. For example, if you know which force wants to come and poach them, the Baichanayu force will use various reasons to make it difficult for them, and these reasons are quite serious, so no one can say anything. Of course, there were also visitors, so Jia Yan saw visitors from certain forces. Like a creature that looks like a ball of plasticine. Dear Sir Jia Yan, on behalf of the master of our power, I come to extend my sincere greetings to you. The plasticine creature is a territory lord, but his strength is not very strong. He is just the lowest level of a territory lord who is weaker than the three major territory lords of Baichanayu. It is best for such a being to act as a diplomat. Using a territory lord not only shows respect for the other party, but also does not use a more powerful territory lord, showing that there is no hostility. Oh, your force, is it a force with senior domain lords? When Jia Yan heard the creature in front of him, he mentioned that there was a master in the force, and he was. The implication was that his strength as a domain lord was probably not that high among that force. When you hear this, you know that there are bound to be more powerful people in the opponent's force. And in this place where the forces in the starry sky gather together, the most powerful force is probably the senior domain lord. Yes, there is a senior territory lord among our Shanlu forces. As a powerful territory lord, you must also understand that a senior territory lord is almost the strongest in our starry sky. There is a big existence, but because of this, our Lord Shanlu is busy practicing every day, so he was not able to visit Lord Jiayan in person this time. Please forgive me. The plasticine creature suddenly became very respectful when he mentioned the leader of his power. It can be seen that even for a territory lord, a senior territory lord, it is an unimaginably terrifying existence. This is the case above the galaxy level. Speaking of which, including the junior and middle levels, the domain lord level, and even the later galaxy level, peak, and other powerful beings, the respective strength divisions are enough to draw a large level, but they are some big shots just like to get together with ordinary strong men and do not agree with this division. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2368. So in the galaxy level, there are a bunch of unequal strength beings, all of which have become the same level, but every small level improvement inside is a huge improvement to the level below, which makes many strong people feel very funny. It's better to draw a clearer line. Senior Territory Lord, that's worthy of respect. When he said this, Jia Yan also nodded, showing a touch of respect in his expression. Although he is also an equivalent to a senior combat type domain master, to the existence of the same level, if there is no hostile relationship, expressing respect is the most basic respect, because respecting the same level is to respect yourself. However, his respect turned into a sign of weakness in the eyes of the other party. This Jia Yan, some outsiders even speculated that he might be a senior nonsense, but now it seems that it is impossible. After all, when it comes to seniority, he has become so respectful. The plasticine creature's eyes lit up in the mud, and it thought of so many things in an instant. Ever since, after this guess was established, his subsequent attitude became more respectful and condescending. Your Excellency Jia Yan, you also know that for our mountain green forces, this area is no more than our own back garden. Therefore, Your Excellency Jia Yan, as an outsider, it stands to reason that you will hurt us a bit. The heart of power, after all, you are not a local strong man in our area. The plasticine creature was actually a bit irritating as he spoke. Of course, he did not speak so directly, but Your Excellency Jia Yan is very powerful, and our Shanl leader also admires him very much, so he specially told me not to neglect you. In this matter, our Shanl leader I also said that you are a visiting friend from the northern Chennai faction. The three of them came to the door on their own, which is equivalent to disturbing the yaxing of Your Excellency Jia Yan's visiting friend. It is their fault, but, Your Excellency Jia Yan, since you are a visiting friend, yes, there has to be a time to leave. After all, there is no such thing as a banquet that lasts forever. The original words of our leader of Shanlu were, "Please tell me the day of your departure, Sir Jia Yan. On that day, the Shanlu forces will definitely come to see you off." Jia Yan was startled for a moment, and then a sense of clarity appeared in his heart. These words seemed to be very respectful and express their goodwill, but behind this goodwill, they reveal the other party's limits and true intentions. Get out of here. Think about it and understand it. In a place where the forces are deeply entangled, a person who can overturn the balance of the region suddenly comes. How can the established powerful forces here not be worried? There's just something wrong with the way they talk here. Jia Yan looked at the plasticine creature in front of him. Although the other person was also a territory lord, because of his average strength, he became very nervous while Jia Yan watched. He also felt something was wrong. When he first came here, he was respectful to Jia Yan, but after he felt that Jia Yan had found out the details, he became a little unscrupulous. But this being, although not that strong, is actually capable of defeating 3 domain masters who are stronger than himself. The plasticine creature trembled all over, thinking it was going to be bad. However, Jia Yan did not take action, but looked calmly at the territory lord who was so boastful about him. He actually understands the mentality of this territory lord. That is to look down on Jia Yan, who is not as strong as the leader of his family, and think that Jia Yan will definitely leave under the threat of a senior domain master. Under normal circumstances, Jia Yan could only swallow his anger and leave the area in despair. Because if you don't leave, even if you talk about it to this point, you won't give the other party's senior domain master face. But the problem is that Jia Yan is not afraid of senior domain masters, because senior domain masters, he has already killed several of them. The fear of a territory lord at this level is instinctive, but when it comes to the fear of a single territory lord, Jia Yang never thought that he would be so afraid of a particular territory lord. Oh, Your Excellency, you are just joking. I, Jia Yan, am visiting relatives and friends. I can stay as long as I want. I don't need others to come and give me advice on my affairs. That's all. Please Your Excellency, please go back. If Your Excellency Shanlu wants to come and discuss Taoism with me, Jia Yan, I would welcome it. Jia Yan calmly issued the eviction order. In fact, he wished that another senior domain lord would come to discuss and even fight with him. Anyway, as others understand, even with his current combat power, without the help of explosives, it will be more difficult to defeat a senior domain lord, but there is absolutely no possibility of death. If you cannot defeat him, you can enter the subspace. This is also the biggest headache for all the surrounding domain lords who have a headache for Jia Yan after they know that Jia Yan is a subspace gifted creature. What's more, they underestimated Jia Yan's true strength. Okay, Your Excellency Jia Yan, I will fully explain your attitude to my master of the Mountain Green Forces, so please take care of yourself. After saying this, the plasticine creature, as if prepared for Jia Yan's sudden attack, silently retreated outside the starry sky of conversation, and then watched the two sides getting further and further apart, and finally let out a long sigh of relief, and then he turned around and left quickly without any hesitation. Hey, are you senior? Jia Yan was left alone as a behemoth, occupying a huge area in the starry sky. He watched the strong man leave indifferently, and his mood was not as peaceful as it seemed. Because the senior domain lord is not that easy for him to deal with. If he does not use explosions and other means, it is impossible to win against such a strong person. But he is not prone to serious injuries, because he has a backup plan and can enter the subspace. At the same level, Jia Yan does not believe that there is any senior domain master in the world who can seriously injure himself. Maybe there is a senior person who can almost crush him, but it is absolutely impossible to seriously injure him, because that is definitely something that can only be done by a higher level existence. So Jia Yan is not worried, but has expectations. After another battle with an ordinary domain master, he urgently needed a senior person for verification so that his combat experience and level could be further improved. It was hard to count the previous time because the combat effectiveness of the two sides was not at the same level. Jia Yan used a unique method to win, so it could not be treated as a normal exercise. Mountain Green Force. I don't know what the Clay Domain Lord will say about me when I go back this time. Jia Yan looked at the other party's figure in the distance, daydreaming in his heart. Master Shanlu, Jia Yan is definitely not just passing by. It is said that he first went to the Baikonau forces because the so-called planet was robbed by the Rain Domain Lord in Baikonau, so he came to us for this group of forces. It seems that the planet may be an excuse. He uses this to get into our area and wants to come here to get a piece of the pie. The plasticine-like mollusk was constantly making slanderous remarks in the main hall. At the top of the hall, A huge man with a green head above his head silently listened to the words of the domain lord below and looked around from time to time. This hall, said to be a hall, is actually made of a planet, incredibly huge. The size of a domain lord is more than 40 kilometers, but they are gathered together in a group, chatting and discussing matters. Compared with planets such as the North Star, the powerful people such as the territory lords in the outside world are uncomfortable because they are too large and ordinary housing cannot make them comfortable at all. But unfortunately, in this hall, many domain lords have their own space. It seems that the size of this hall exceeds 1,000 kilometers in diameter. In other words, throw in the Edisha star. Can be accommodated entirely in the main hall. This is too scary. Of course, it is completely incomparable with the lifestyle in Biostar where even the strong, even the territory lords, have their own living space and can integrate with ordinary people. Probably this is also the territory lord from the outside world. There are many reasons why they still choose to live in Biosha despite knowing that life in Biosha will be more difficult. Plasticine, if you say that, then maybe Jia Yan's attitude when talking to you was not that good. The lord of the mountain green territory, who was above the head and had a patch of green above his head, asked calmly. Although he did not completely obey the words of the plasticine creature, there was already a hint of murderous intention in his eyes. After all, there is a difference between closeness and distance. To him, the plasticine creature is like a subordinate and a friend, so naturally he is willing to do so. Prefer a little more plasticine. Yes, Jia Yan's words at that time, although it is impossible to directly ridicule me, but the meaning of his words is to look down on our forces. Presumably, he thinks that he is a subspace talented domain master, so he will not treat me as such. Just take it seriously. Snort. The lord of the mountain green territory had a gloomy look on his face, with displeasure written all over his green face. A few days ago, there was another galaxy-level concubine who had an affair with an outsider while he was out. He didn't know what was going on. He was so angry that he killed the concubine and his mistress on the spot. After that, he continued for so many days. Anger is hard to get rid of. He didn't know what was going on. He felt that all his lovers were unfaithful to him. Could it be that so many lovers couldn't understand the beauty of having such green on his head? In the hometown of his race, males with such green heads are the objects of competition for mates by beautiful female trees. But the problem is that after arriving in the outer starry sky and seeing too many beauties in the outside world, his aesthetics changed. He has always liked female creatures in the outside world. As a result, almost every time, he was green. Oh, by the way, in the interstellar language, the meaning of green does not exist, otherwise he would have thought that there was something wrong with his green head. Sir, according to my opinion, the purpose of this Jia Yan territory lord's arrival is very simple. He is to come to us to operate a new force and then compete with us for resources. We cannot let his conspiracy succeed. The leader of the plasticine domain was like beating a snake and following the stick. Taking advantage of the situation, the leader of the mountain green domain became somewhat hostile towards Jia Yan, and took advantage of the situation to tell him how to deal with Jia Yan. Anyway, everyone can see this. He happened to have a little bit of hostility towards Jia Yan, so he said it. As for what kind of fierce fighting scene the two sides will turn into next, it is not his business. Anyway, from his point of view, he is just a domain master who is proficient in subspace. If he is not at the senior level, he will have no way to deal with the mountain green forces like him. In the end, I am afraid that they will be forced out of this area by their forces, leaving them in despair. Just adding to the laughing stock. It's not that similar things have never happened, but they happen often. After all, in this black hole area, there are too many strong people. Although there are many resources, it is definitely a situation where everyone is fighting for it. Their mountain green forces, it is also a force that has been fought along the way. Naturally, it will not be afraid of a domain lord who does not even appear to be senior. Well, let me think about it. Plasticine, you did a good job, go back and have a good rest this time. I heard that there is a new discovery in the exhausted star around our area, and you will be needed in the future. I used to be in charge of the battlefield, so you have to give me a good rest. Okay. Under the words of the Lord of the Mountain Green Territory, Plasticine agreed repeatedly and then walked out of the hall limply. Everyone, look, what kind of existence is this Jiayan? After the Plasticine Domain Lord left, the Mountain Green Domain Lord asked the creatures below. This is the magnanimity and control ability of a power lord. He did not analyze the statement of the Clay Domain Lord on the spot, because once something is refuted, it will lose people's hearts. Clay also knew it well, and the information he said, after he leaves, he will be analyzed by the Mountain Green Territory Lord with other territory lords, but he understands this approach very well. After all, things cannot be just based on his one-sided words. Master Shanlu, I think, although I can't believe the words of Plasticine, judging from the series of actions that Jiayan has done since he came to our area, it is absolutely impossible for him to follow any rules. So we have to guard against it? That's right, Master Shanlu, let's put it this way, if it were a subspace talent with first-class escapability, I wouldn't take a senior domain lord too seriously, although we can defeat a subspace master. Space talent exists, but it is too difficult to kill. Do you still remember that 500 years ago, we provoked a subspace existence from a giant star, and then that existence almost made a mess of our Mountain Green forces? This, according to me, Jiayan may be more difficult to deal with than the subspace domain lord, because he is a strong man who can defeat several domain lords head-on. Several domain owners with good analytical skills spoke one after another. After hearing their words, all the territory lords, including Shan Lu, became solemn. These territory lords were right. They did encounter a territory lord with subspace talents 500 years ago, and what happened that time was also related to the Mountain Green Territory Lord's preference for foreign beauties. At that time, the Mountain Green Territory Lord fell in love with a foreign star-level female. Not long after they got close, the female was seduced by the Territory Lord who walked out of the superstar. The green color on the top of the Mountain Green Territory Lord's head seemed to change. A little more conspicuous. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2369. After that, the two sides became a fight to the death. Unfortunately, although the strength of the Mountain Green Territory Lord at that time was not much different from what it is now, he still couldn't get a slippery QCI space talent. There was no way. After several times, after the siege and suppression failed, the Territory Lord who stepped out of the superstar seemed to know the details of the Shanlu forces, and turned from defense to offense, constantly causing trouble around the Shanlu forces, regardless of the strong people's travels. He did not let go of fleets, merchant ships, etc. He defeated the entire Shanlu forces and was unable to communicate with the outside world normally for several years. They lost a huge amount of trade and income in an instant, and they were in a terrible state. In the last time, Shanlu himself came forward, apologized to the other party, and signed a peace agreement. The subspace talented domain master left with the beautiful female in his arms, and it was all over. Thinking of the past events, the top of the Mountain Green Territory Lord's head turned green. He felt his anger rising and wanted to vent. Humph, the existence of subspace talents is a bunch of rubbish that has gone astray. Well, in the past 500 years, I have not made any progress, and my methods for subspace have also increased, so you don't have to worry about being against them. If there is really a contradiction, I will let this subspace talent know that we, the Mountain Green Force, are not helpless with the subspace talent. Let's adjourn the meeting. Shanlu left with an ugly expression on his face for a while, and then all the territory lords below looked at him with great admiration as he left. Every time he is cheated by others, the Mountain Green Territory Lord will study the opponent's methods. Every time the enemy is more difficult, he studies more and more things. If we say in this starry sky area, which senior territory lord is the most comprehensive? The enemy who can deal with the most is really the lord of the Mountain Green Territory. Who allowed him to be cheated on as many times as Wool? Wow, it's been 500 years, my Shanur, I loved you so much at that time, but you left with someone else. Thinking of that scene makes me heartbroken. Talking to himself, when he turned the corner, Shanlu saw a beautifully dressed insect-like creature, which was obviously a female. Sir, what's wrong with you? The female insect creature was in full bloom, looking at the green creature with a green head walking in front of her, and asked with great concern. It's nothing, I just remembered some past events. My beloved, how have you been these past few days? I heard that you are not in a good mood lately. When Shanlu saw this female insect creature, she immediately forced a smile on her face without showing any air of being a strong person towards her. This female creature is naturally the current beloved concubine of the Shanlu territory lord, and is his favorite concubine. Because of his love, Shanlu has no heirs of a senior territory lord in front of her. He has absorbed 200 years ago, there was a beloved concubine who was as beloved as the beloved concubine in front of him. Because he was putting on the airs of a senior domain lord, he angrily escaped from the Shanlu forces with one of his subordinates. In other words, 200 years ago, he escaped because of himself putting on airs, the beloved concubine cheated on her again. So this time he didn't do that. He loved the galactic level concubine in front of him very much, and he didn't have the airs of a strong man. He would try his best to satisfy the concubine if she wanted to buy or do anything. And at least for now, the beloved concubine in front of him really loves him to death. Shanlu believes that the ending of his wife running away for no reason in this life will no longer happen to him, and he is very happy. Well, it's good that you're okay, sir, otherwise Xiaokan will be very worried about you. The female insect creature was soft and frail, and came forward with great affection and rubbed the shoulders of the lord of the Mountain Green Territory. Love, my beloved concubine, my beloved concubine, my dear beloved concubine, with a wife like this, why should I be sad in life? Shanlu was moved. Thinking back to so many tragic emotional experiences in his life, he almost shed tears that a senior domain master would almost never shed. So many emotional injuries in the past were definitely traps set to make his last relationship come true. Good things come in a long way, which is the current situation. He felt that he was so happy that he wanted to ascend to heaven. Sir, I also feel that being your wife is the happiest thing in my life. Kun. Mountain Green. Kun. Green. Kun. Green. I love you. I love you too. The two creatures looked at each other passionately and screamed in disgust. After about dozens of hours, the satisfied female insect creature clung to the branch-like body on the top of her head that had become greener after doing what certain creatures in the universe would do. Sir, you must be troubled by something. I have been married to you for 50 years. How could I not know what is wrong with you? Honey, can you really tell? I'm so touched by my husband. Actually, I feel a headache because of a certain territory lord level powerhouse who just came to this starry sky. This guy is pretty good, and he's people from the outside don't understand the rules of our black hole area, so we need to have a good battle of heart and strength with him recently. Alas, it's been such a troubled time. Ah! Here comes another powerful domain lord. Is this a creature that even your husband has to worry about? Bah, he's from the outside world. According to me, this guy must be the kind of reckless man who drinks hair and blood. People from backward areas in the outside world don't care. Know the rules. I don't think so as a husband. At least as an opponent, I think he still has a certain temperament and his appearance is passable. No, I have his photo here. Look, he has an insect-like posture. Wife, you should be more appreciative than me. While speaking, the Lord of the Mountain Green Territory opened his brain, and then generated a virtual giant mosquito image at a height of 10 kilometers away from the boudoir hall where the two of them were, not far from their heads. Boom. At this moment, the insect-like Kun Ai Fei was shaken all over, with an expression of disbelief in her delicate and beautiful eyes. On the virtual screen, there is no part of the giant mosquito's body that has undergone many perfect evolutionary mutations that does not reveal the word perfect. This will make any female insect creature fall for it. Perfection, the extremely pure sense of evolutionary perfection, and the ubiquitous domineering posture give the Kun Ai Fei in front of her the most primitive impulse of living things. She wants to give birth to a child for the creature in the picture. If this were combined with him, what a perfect creature the child would be. My God, is there such a perfect man in the world? So handsome, so cool, so mighty and domineering. Mrs. Kun, what's wrong with you? Do you feel that this creature is more wild than you imagined? I will put it away right now. Don't. Concubine Kun quickly screamed, but she was stunned for a moment, and then let the Lord of the Mountain Green Territory, who also had the same meal, put away the virtual screen, as if it had returned to normal, and lay down softly on the Mountain Green Territory in front of her. On the Lord. Honey, it's just that I haven't seen such a wild countryman for a long time. He's quite interesting. Husband, tell me, where did he settle down? Haha, I didn't expect that in the eyes of you insect creatures, he would be so reckless. But I think highly of him and thought he had some temperament. This guy's name is Jia Yan. Now, under the guise of visiting a friend, he refused to leave the Northern Morning Rain Force, and even intervened in the battle between the Northern Morning Rain Force and another force a few days ago. His fighting ability was quite good, with 1 against 3, and he was lucky enough to win. Oh, Mr. Jia Yan, is Baichanayu powerful? By the way, husband, let's not talk about this. I told you a few days ago. I have been a little bored recently and want to go out for a walk, please, sir. Permit. The female insect creature crawls on the body of the mountain green creature, acting coquettishly. Okay, you go, but you have to come back early, otherwise hubby, I will miss my beloved concubine. Okay, thank you dear husband. Shanlu enjoyed the warm time with his concubine extremely, but he did not find that in this warm time, concubine Kun, who was very affectionate with him on weekdays and showed no pretense at all, actually looked into the beautiful big eyes of that insect. There was a hint of disgust. Hey, why do I feel a little chilly? For a territory lord, this is not a superstition. Generally speaking, the territory lord's perception is not inexplicable, but it is true. Where is it? Did something threatening to me happen? In the subspace within the hinterland of Baichanayu's forces, Jia Yanan was living inside the Edisha star. He suddenly shuddered, then raised his head and looked around with some trepidation. You know, strong people already have a hint of strange supernatural powers. Under normal circumstances, if their bodies react, it means that something may really be happening. Of course, this feeling is something like a sixth sense, which works sometimes but not always. Anyway, this time Jia Yan looked around worriedly and found nothing wrong, so he had no choice but to give up the search. In short, if something really happened, he could only face it. He couldn't just run away from here just because he had certain feelings. That would be too cowardly. And even if something happens, he is not really afraid. At least in this area, the only known strongest people are a few senior domain masters, so he must be able to deal with them. Bachanaya forces, you must carefully investigate the arrivals recently. I feel that something will happen recently. After thinking about it, Jia Yan decided to announce this news to the outside world, Bachanaya's forces. As for whether they were willing to listen to him, it was their own business. Jia Yan was still a little worried about his own safety anyway. Confidence. Huh? This Jia Yan actually asked us to investigate the recent visitors. His strength is becoming more and more elusive to us. At least don't get into trouble with him on this matter. Let's investigate. The three Bachanaya brothers in the outside world were surprised one by one after hearing what Jia Yan said to them. However, this matter is not a big deal. They just need to arrange more manpower to investigate the comings and goings in the border areas. It's just people, for them, it just takes a certain amount of extra effort, not a big deal. So they did. After just following Jia Yan's instructions, these three domain lord level experts still had a lot of headaches. These things are all about Jia Yan. Originally, it was a great good thing for them that Jia Yan had a good relationship with them. After all, such a powerful territory lord, and even a senior territory lord, may have subspace talents that he can't do anything about. It is definitely a huge benefit for them to have such a trump card backing them. But the problem came again. Jia Yan's performance in the previous battle made them unsure of what kind of attitude this foreign strongman had towards them. He seemed to be getting close to them, but also seemed unwilling to separate. If there is any benefit, their northern Chennai forces have actually given back a lot of what they have gained recently into the subspace. They didn't see Jia Yan helping them in any way, which gave them a headache. God knows if Jia Yan will eat it after a while. Just wipe it clean and run away? Do the math, can we break even with what we have gained because of Jia Yan recently and what we have given him? The results have been calculated above. In fact, we have not gained much. Instead, because of the support of this outsider, we have become a dazzling presence in the starry sky. If he leaves, our force will, I'm afraid I'm going to have a terrible fate. The faces of the three domain masters were dark. I originally thought that turning an enemy into a friend with Jia Yan, a strong man from the outside, would definitely help them in Bachanaya's power to reach a higher level, but I didn't expect that they had done so many things, and it seemed like they were paying tribute. Similarly, he gave Jia Yan a lot of benefits, but he was unmoved, as if the old god was there and thought that the three brothers should be given to him. He took the good things, but he didn't care about the bad and troublesome things. Last time we had a bad situation with the Western forces. Didn't we ask him to come forward to help ease things up? What did he say? The Northern Territory Lord rubbed his head uncomfortably, feeling very speechless. Don't talk about it. I'll get angry if you talk about it. The last time I called him, I talked to Shiyuan and said a lot of nice things. But when he talked about it, he just said directly, we had a problem before the cause, the effect needs to be done by ourselves. If there is no other way, he will not take care of it. What kind of thing is this, ugh? The Lord of Rain Territory felt very angry when he mentioned this matter. The Lord of the Rain Territory is a small-minded person, otherwise he wouldn't have picked up things and returned to his power. Although he couldn't pick up a lot of good things, the problem is that as long as he picked up a strong person's planet once, in the past, I was afraid that he would never dare to do such a thing again in the future. And recently, because of Jia Yan's existence, Bachanaya's forces kept giving Jia Yan supplies, which made the small air domain master almost explode with anger, like banging the table with Jia Yan. But it was impossible to slap the table. He didn't have this kind of strength. Even if he gathered all the combat power of the entire northern Chennai forces, he might be a little short, so he could only swallow his anger. Actually, I also feel this way. When Jia Yan comes to our power and cooperates with us, it is not a real cooperation at all. It's like he really asks us to give us supplies and then repair his brain. After that, he will leave. This is too much. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2370. The bright head of the Lord of the Morning Territory also flashed with a not-so-willing brilliance. After all, the Territory Lord would never be able to make wedding clothes for others. If it weren't for Jia Yan's strength, they would have come to his door long ago. Forget it, this Jia Yan's strength is too strong. Although we have gained nothing during this period, as long as he doesn't say it personally, if he has a normal relationship with our Baichanayu, even if he leaves in the future, our Baichanayu, there will always be one more thing about power that makes outsiders fearful. The Lord of the North Territory shook his head and said with a final conclusion. The thing is that simple. The relationship between them and Jia Yan is just a simple relationship between slavery and being enslaved. Jia Yan doesn't even have the slightest idea of helping them solve other things. Fortunately, the relationship between the two parties has not yet reached the point of falling out, and the Baichanayu forces have indeed received a lot more attention recently because of Jia Yan's existence. Many people have moved to Baikan because of Jia Yan. The Rain forces have invested and developed, and many forces have even extended an olive branch to Baikan Yu, which has made the Baikan Yu forces more prosperous. As long as Jia Yan does not reveal that the relationship between him and the Northern Chanayu forces is not a cooperation, but a simple passing by, then even if Jia Yan leaves in the future, the Northern Chanayu forces will have smooth sailing for a long time, even if later, people discovered that Jia Yan would really never come back. I am afraid that when dealing with the forces of Baichanayu, they would think of this subspace talented person who is likely to come back. In other words, as long as the Northern Morning Rain Force endures this wave, the future benefits will be obvious. This is why, even if Jia Yan went too far, the three major domain masters of the Northern Morning Rain Force still chose to swallow their anger. Report. Just when the three domain masters were worrying about gains and losses, and were happy but not so happy about Jia Yan staying here, a stellar subordinate came in a hurry. What's up? The three domain masters all looked a little unhappy. They usually hated the noise of their subordinates when they were discussing matters, and they had already scolded their subordinates many times for this. However, they will not break out easily. Their subordinates all know that they don't like to be disturbed when discussing matters, so those who will disturb are usually very important matters. Then, the Green Mountains, the Green Mountains. The star-level powerhouse was obviously in a hurry and could not even speak steadily. Mountain Green. Upon hearing the word Mountain Green, the three domain masters felt their whole bodies tense up. A few days ago, they also saw the exchange between Jia Yan and the plasticine creatures of the Mountain Green Force from a distance. Although they could not hear the specific conversation, in the end the plasticine domain lord left in a hurry, but they saw it. But today, when they heard the word Shanlu, they suddenly became worried. They thought that Shanlu's reaction was so fast, and they suddenly came to take revenge. What's wrong with Shanlu? Tell me. The Northern Territory Lord stood up and exerted great pressure on the star below. The other two powerful men also stood up, and the three domain lords looked directly at each other, making the star even more nervous. They all thought that Shanlu must have come to take revenge, and if Shanlu himself was provoked, then Baikanayu's forces would be finished. Even if Jia Yan helped them, it would be impossible to resist them, let alone Jia Yan would definitely not be able to resist them. He would choose to start a war with a senior domain lord because of the mediocre relationship with the Northern Morning Rain forces. If he ran away, the Northern Morning Rain forces would definitely be in danger. The female and female creatures who claim to be the Princess of Shan Green Power are outside saying they want to see Lord Jia Yan. This stellar class originally had few opportunities to meet the three major domain lords, but the female creature that came this time came through the border of the forces they were defending, so he could only report it in person, which led to the extremely nervous way of speaking at the moment. Huh? Princess. She turned out to be some kind of princess. You kid, you scared me. Can you please stop hesitating? It's just making people nervous. The three domain masters suddenly laughed and scolded this star-level person, but they were also very happy. After all, in the northern Chennai forces, everyone actually didn't have much respect for them. Now that they found out that there is such a talent, they are quite pleased. It feels strange. But after laughing, and then chewing on the news about the princess, the three creatures were stunned again. No, brother, I can't take this matter lightly. It is said that Shanlu is a passionate person. He was willing to pay a lot for each of the previous princesses. Although in the end, none of them seemed to have a better ending, but if the princess who is coming this time is really a princess of her generation, we cannot underestimate her. Well, I also remembered that Shanlu has had many concubines in his life, but I have never heard of him having two concubines at the same time. When he has one concubine, he will almost never flirt with women, and will only like that one. That's all, so this concubine must be the one in Shanlu's eyes. Let's go. If the real concubine comes, we are negligent, which is a serious crime. After some analysis, the three territory lords ignored the comments of their star-level subordinates that the concubine was just a galaxy-level powerhouse, and they all went out to greet her without any self-esteem from the territory lords. After all, this is the beloved concubine of a senior domain lord. Judging from Shanlu's character, if he is not so friendly to his beloved concubine, Shanlu may really attack her in a big way. Senior territory lord, the northern Chennai forces really can't afford to offend him. Far away in the starry sky, a beautiful insect-like creature was blocked, standing alone in space. There was no guard around her. If she didn't tell anyone, no one would believe that she was famous. The concubine of the mountain green domain. At this moment, concubine Kun's whole body is exuding colorful brilliance. This is the appearance of their clan when they are in love. Even when she is with the lord of the mountain green territory, this female territory lord has not become like this. The color is over, after all, it doesn't feel that much like the lord of the mountain green territory. But she has already become so emotional before she has even met that Jia Yan. It can be seen that the original image and the information about Jia Yan collected along the way have given her much shock and excitement. From a distance, this female creature emitting various lights is extremely attractive. Is this the concubine of Shanlu? She is indeed an existence that can make a senior domain lord fall deeply into her. She is actually so beautiful. This aesthetic is in line with the aesthetics of all species. No wonder Deshanlu made her a concubine. Don't say it, even if it's me, hee hee. Shut up, this is Shanlu's concubine. On the way, the three domain lords were able to see further than the concubine's galactic level strength. They noticed the appearance of the concubine early and all of them exclaimed in surprise. However, no matter how amazed they were, they could only do it before seeing the real person. They didn't want to annoy the mountain green, so when they flew close to them, they all behaved like gentlemen, not squinting. The magnanimity of the domain lord level is simulated vividly. Master Shanlu's concubine, right? Hello, I am the Northern Territory Lord of the Northern Morning Rain Force. Lord of the Morning Territory. Lord of the Rain Territory. The three domain masters calmly told the concubine their names. When they saw her, the three domain masters understood that this must be concubine Shanlu herself. After all, the two of them had been married for many years. When they searched on the internet, there were pictures of her and descriptions of her energy levels, etc. So his true identity was revealed at first glance. Appearances can be faked, but strength cannot be faked. Galaxy-level beings are no longer weaklings, and they still look like this. I'm afraid it would be difficult to find another one who looks similar even in the entire black hole area. Of course, this cannot include the 4 giant stars. There are too many creatures in the place where the 4 monsters gather. It is said that one giant star can be compared to the entire population of life in the Milky Way outside. It is not generally comparable at all, but they will not go out, so there is no need to consider it. I've met a few seniors. The little girl went out to relax and came to your place. Sorry to bother you. Even though she was itching in her heart and wanted to see Jia Yan so much, the concubine Kun in front of her still maintained a certain degree of restraint because she didn't want that adult to know that she was actually such a wanton female creature. Haha, I won't disturb you. Since the concubine is willing to come to our forces, we are not happy enough. I wonder if the concubine is going to enter our main star to rest, or to go shopping around. We can send someone to take you around. Although there is only one main star in this force, there are also many asteroids with beautiful scenery and some local customs. You can go and see them. In fact, even the 3 territory lords of Bachanayu don't know what their Bachanayu force is worth for others to travel to. Moreover, existences that have reached the star level and above will generally not do anything in the ordinary starry sky. There is no such thing as traveling, because they are too big, and it is not interesting to go to ordinary scenic spots. So they didn't understand. Although the female galaxy-level creature in front of them was not worth mentioning in terms of strength, but in terms of the overall black hole area, it was considered a good female galaxy-level creature. Why would they be interested in it? The Northern Morning Rain forces are playing. Could it be that the Shanlu forces want to explore the bottom? The 3 territory lords thought of this one after another. After all, they were still talking about this matter just now. But after thinking of this, they shook their heads. A concubine, it is said that she has a very good relationship with Shanlu. If Shanlu really loves her as rumored, then she should not be allowed to go out and take risks. Judging from the fact that he didn't have many guards around him, it seemed that this person really went out on his own and went to Bachanayu's forces. I don't need you to lead me. I heard that there are many interesting places in your force, so I just stopped by to have a look. Oh, yes, by the way, it is said that there is also a territory lord in your force, right? Can I meet him? Concubine Kun looked a little embarrassed, especially when talking about Jia Yan. She felt like she couldn't speak well. She is already a concubine, and she still thinks about other males. This is a bit too much for a concubine. However, the strong creatures in the Interstellar generally don't care much about this matter. As long as they don't have several partners at the same time, it is not a problem, because everyone is too strong and has a long lifespan. You can't ask for hundreds or thousands. In a lifespan of years or even tens of thousands of years, you won't even change the partner, right? Generally speaking, female creatures will change many partners in their lives, and the male ones are even more exaggerated. Some strong men have several concubines and wives at the same time, which makes many female creatures feel that these strong men are scumbag males. At this moment, concubine Kun felt that she was developing in the direction of a scumbag. She was too scumbag. She already had a husband, but she was still thinking about other males. It is said that this male insect domain master has a very strong aura of life. In other words, he is a young and promising domain master. He may even be younger than himself. He is a proper little meat. I am attacking him because of this. Isn't that a bit excessive? But we're already here, so take a look. Even if nothing happens in the end, you'll have a dream. Huh? Want to see Your Excellency Jia Yan? After hearing the words of this insect creature, the expressions of the 3 territory lords of Northern Morning Rain suddenly changed. They looked at each other and their moods became solemn. This concubine of the Mountain Green Force is indeed here to cause trouble. Are you really here to take advantage of the situation? The gazes of the 3 territory lords became dangerous, and concubine Kun felt her heart skip a beat. Could it be that they saw through my little thoughts? Everyone has heard that territory lord level beings have amazing wisdom and can often see through people's hearts. Shanlu can't see anything. It's because Shanlu is a bit stupid. Are other territory lords in the outside world so smart? Concubine Kun also misunderstood and thought her little thoughts had been seen through. Your Highness, it's not impossible for you to want to see Your Excellency Jia Yan. It's just that Your Excellency Jia Yan usually likes to retreat and generally doesn't see outsiders. So, I'll report your request to see you. Whether I see you or not, that's Jia Yan. Lord Yan is his own business, we really have no control over him, do you understand? The Lord of the North Territory thought for a while and felt that he and others should not get too involved in this matter. Although the concubine in front of him was probably sent by the Shanl forces to pry the wall, but look at Jia Yan, that person's temper must not be inferior to others just because the other person is a senior domain lord, so he probably won't join Shanlu. And they didn't dare to hide this matter. If Jia Yan knew about it in the future, wouldn't he have an affair with them for no reason? Just retaliate, it will kill you with a knife. What's going on? I feel like I'm getting upset more and more recently. Living in the subspace, Jia Yan kept adjusting his mentality, but no matter how he adjusted, he still felt upset and always felt that there was an inexplicable threat approaching him. It seems like a threat, but it feels different from the previous threats, such as the attack of a strong man. It seems to have some weird meaning. This is a situation that Jia Yan rarely encounters. Because of this, even if this feeling is quite light, it still causes Jia Yan's practice and summary of battles to become very slow. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2371. Jia Yan was distracted, and from time to time he would like to see where the threat came from. Buzz buzz. Suddenly, the communicator placed next to the big room lit up, flashing a signal continuously. For no apparent reason, when Jia Yan heard the beeps from the communicator, he suddenly felt a greater sense of threat, as if someone was telling him not to answer the call. But Jia Yan hesitated for a moment, and when he saw the name of the caller marked on it, which was Lord of the North Territory, he still chose to accept the communication. After all, who is the Lord of the Northern Territory? Is Jia Yan still afraid of the threat from this ordinary domain lord? Even with just 1 foot, Jia Yan is confident that he can beat the Northern Territory master to the point where he will be pissed. Maybe I felt wrong. The call from the Northern Territory lord was not a threat at all. Jia Yan picked up the communication. Hey, Lord of the North Territory, I haven't contacted you for a long time. Is there anything you want to do today? Your Excellency Jia Yan, I haven't seen you for a long time and I miss you very much. Haha. There was a hint of embarrassment and weirdness in the words of the Northern Territory lord. There was no reason for it. When Jia Yan heard what he said, he felt his heart tighten suddenly. That inexplicable sense of threat was placed in front of him, which made him feel stunned. Unexpectedly, is this call the reason? Why? I always feel that this kind of threat is different from the feeling of threat during fighting. It is something more, how to explain, it seems to have a touch of pink. It still feels like something, in short, Jia Yan feels it carefully, and it is also very weird. I have time to go out and sit with you. Lord of the North Territory, do you have any business with me this time? Jia Yan adheres to one thing, that is, no matter what the problem is, as long as it happens in this area, it will not endanger his life. As for whether the person coming might be a high-level powerful person from the galaxy, Jia Yan did not consider it, because this kind of person was a powerful person. If he really wanted to cause trouble for him, I'm afraid he would be caught even if he escaped back to the solar system. If we talk about the top level of the galaxy, or the legendary strong people at the top of the galaxy that no longer exist, then there is no need to consider it. For example, the Tai Shang, who is probably the high level of the galaxy, has sealed off the entire black hole area. This kind of Jia Yan still can't think of how to do this ability. If he wants to kill such a being, just one thought is probably enough. And next, the strongest person at the top of the galaxy, no one knows whether he exists or not. A strong person who can produce several superstars. Such, well, Jia Yan will not even think about how he and others will do it. Fight. So after thinking about it, Jia Yan didn't think that he would have any big problems, because if he was weak, he couldn't kill him, and if he was strong, it would be like killing a chicken, and defense would be useless. Fortunately, the news coming from the other side was not anything dangerous. Just pretty weird. Lord Jia Yan, there is a distinguished guest here at the gate of our Bachanaya power, saying that he wants to see you. VIP. Jia Yan's inexplicable feeling became stronger and stronger. The so-called VIPs always say this to me every time, but those who come are usually diplomats from certain forces, and the content of the conversation with Jia Yan is usually quite boring. Everyone either shakes hands to test each other, or it was full of gunpowder and broke up unhappy afterwards. This time, regardless of the way he spoke when the communication came, or the time when he came to communicate, there was no difference, but why did he feel a bit threatened? I wonder who the distinguished guest is this time. Jia Yan thought about it and decided to ask first who was coming to see him. If it wasn't someone he needed to meet, he thought he didn't need to meet him because it would be a way to avoid some danger. Your Excellency, this is a big shot in the Mountain Green forces. It's hard for us to refuse. However, if Your Excellency Jia Yan doesn't want to see her, we can still refuse her. But this person doesn't seem to give up so easily. Maybe he will come back in the future. I'll find a chance to see you again. A big shot in the Mountain Green forces? Jia Yan was startled, but he smiled sarcastically. If it were just a figure from the Shanlu force, he wouldn't be afraid, because in that force, except Shanlu himself, in his eyes, who else could be considered a big shot? And Shanlu, the strong man himself, will probably not find him personally. Such a terrifying strong man who is in charge of a force cannot move around easily. At least the current Jia Yan should not be able to threaten this senior domain lord. After all, no one knows his level. Jia Yan is also an equivalent to a senior combat type domain master. In this way, I'll meet someone, but I can make it clear to them that I can't guarantee how long we can chat. If the chat doesn't go well, I will leave at any time. Jia Yan agreed to meet him, but left a way out so that the visitor could not say anything he didn't like to hear. He had a good idea, but the problem is that he may not have thought that this person came to exist not because of official business at all, nor was it a serious matter. This matter was something he hadn't encountered for a long time after entering the universe. Puff. There was a crack in the sky, which bloomed quietly, and a black insect-like creature flew out from the sky. The black mosquitoes look like mosquitoes on Earth, but not so similar. More than just a problem, the bigger aspect is that Jia Yan has evolved and mutated too many times. After reaching the current strength of the Domain Lord, he has transcended the mosquito appearance through the perfect evolutionary ability of the evolved beast. At least even if he has nothing now, when the creature sees the mosquitoes on the Earth, it is difficult to connect with Jia Yan's mother clan. But a mosquito is a mosquito. If you really look carefully, he is still a mosquito. An unbelievably huge, yet somewhat domineering giant mosquito. This giant mosquito is completely different from ordinary mosquitoes. The creature that sees it will most likely be frightened to death. The terrifying pressure brought by the Territory Lord's strength is not something ordinary creatures can bear. What's more, Jia Yan is not just a Territory Lord, he is a fighting Territory Lord. He once single-handedly killed several senior Territory Lords in the North Star, and even an enemy's entire army was nearly annihilated. The presence. So at this moment, this giant mosquito exuded a much stronger aura than ordinary domain lords and flew towards the edge of Baikaniu's influence. And here, from a distance, Jia Yan saw the three leaders of the northern Chinayu forces, slightly respectful, surrounding a dazzling creature. Hey, this is a dazzling creature that's rare to see outside. It's quite beautiful, and it's not weak at all. It's galaxy level. Jia Yan was slightly surprised, but he didn't feel surprised or anything. Not even the slightest hint of unique favorability emerged. Boom. The giant mosquito gradually enlarged from a distant place with a menacing momentum, and the living creatures here also saw its arrival. As its approaching figure expanded, the three territory lords of the northern morning rain forces couldn't help but sigh. Your Excellency, Jia Yan's strength is really unfathomable. Our three major domain lords did not know what was going on and had a hand with Your Excellency Jia Yan that day, but he did not kill us. We only found out later that he was actually able to. He can easily defeat us. Yes, Your Excellency Jia Yan is really an open-minded person and does not bear any grudge against us. The Lord of the North Territory and the Lord of the Morning Territory looked at the giant shadow of the creature that was coming, and they actually sighed and admired it. Although their positions with Jia Yan are not actually on the same side, even their current cooperation, everyone understands that it is just a superficial image. But I am extremely envious and admire Jia Yan's magnanimity and the energetic aura brought by his excessive youth. Only after meeting Jia Yan did I understand what temperament is and what aura is. This is the feeling that they can't simulate by being inactive in the territory lord. It is also the real reason why ordinary people think that Jia Yan is different after seeing him. This is Lord Jia Yan's true form. It's just that the domain lords among these three Sais didn't notice the female creature beside them, who was also looking at the approaching figure. Before Jia Yan arrived, the colorful colors on her body suddenly became more brilliant. Oh, this is me, so handsome. Female insect creatures are releasing their love to the fullest. But Jia Yan, who was approaching, gave a slight pause. Because he felt some kind of weird emotion, and the closer he got to the visitor over there, the stronger he felt the weird threat, as if the threat was coming from there. As a result, Jia Yan couldn't help but take a closer look at the big creatures standing in the starry sky before really approaching there. The three great domain masters of Baichanayu are the most important ones. Jia Yan believed that if the three powerful men were really plotting against him, there would still be a certain chance of causing him injury, so he carefully observed the three brothers of Baichanayu, but he found out there are no unique findings. It's not them, could it be, other creatures? But none of the other creatures have reached the domain lord level. Could it be the visiting galaxy level being? Jia Yan couldn't help but turn his attention to the other creatures around Baikaniu territory lord. Not long after seeing the colorful creature, he was surprised again, because he discovered that the dazzling creature that came was a female. It's no wonder, only female creatures have such dazzling colors. Otherwise, it would be awkward to put them on male creatures. Like the butterfly creature I shot last time, it looks good but it always feels weird. Jia Yan nodded naturally. Dazzling colors should be placed on females. This is the aesthetic value he brought from the earth. The male should be like me, black, thick and domineering. Only. What's going on with this female creature? She keeps looking at me. Could it be that she is attracted by my charm? It seems that my charm is quite good. Jia Yan smiled. Of course, this was an inner joke, because among strong people, similar feelings have become less and less. In fact, strong people like Shanlu who urgently need the care of the opposite sex are rare. Most of them, although it can't be said that strong people have no companions, almost all of them are like Jia Yan, and they won't miss Satsuma Kono too much when they are separated. It can't be said to be indifferent, but the strong must recognize a main line. If you want to play an emotional story, then you can only give up the relationship. Jia Yan was such a sentimental mosquito at first, but later he gradually became a very typical one. The strong one. So his smile was just a laugh to tease himself. Not to mention that the other party really admires me, because they are not weak. As for the galaxy level, it is more difficult for female creatures to practice than males. Especially at the galaxy level, it can be said that the ratio is more than 1 to 10. There are 10 females and 1 male, which shows how difficult it is for female creatures to cultivate. Therefore, any female creature that can cultivate to the galaxy level is equivalent to a male who has cultivated to a domain master. She is simply walking on the path of being strong and generally does not have the love of a son or daughter. Hello to you 3 brothers from Baichanayu. In addition, I have also met this friend from the Mountain Green Force. Hello. When Jia Yan came to the circle where these powerful men gathered, he did not show any concern and greeted them first. Hello, Your Excellency Jia Yan. The 3 Baichanayu brothers immediately responded to Jia Yan respectfully. Hello, Master Jia Yan. The colorful creatures also made a sound together, and when you hear the sound, it sounds like a clear spring, tinkling and ringing, which is very refreshing. Looking at her appearance, she is indeed an insect-like creature, but her wings are very similar to those of a butterfly. They are bright and long, and at first glance, she looks like a Chinese butterfly. The phoenix in ancient Chinese mythology has a somewhat similar feeling. Of course, she also has feet, which ruins the phoenix resemblance. But the same beauty, the closer it gets, the more it has the beauty of a living thing. It is not at all the effect of Jia Yan's dozens of evolutionary adjustments. It can be seen that it must be from a large race that has evolved for a long time and has many strong people. The beauty of living things can sometimes be appreciated by each other. In particular, Jia Yan himself has turned into a mosquito and has been hanging around in the universe for a long time. The aesthetics have been affected to some extent, so I don't think this is monster, and unusually beautiful. But, that's it. The universe is so big, there are so many beautiful creatures, and there are so many different aesthetics. You can't just be attracted by something that's eye-catching. Jia Yan is no longer that superficial being. He is a combat type. Host. This is my friend who wants to see me, right? Is he from the Shanl faction? I didn't expect that such a beautiful and dignified lady would come. Jia Yan was polite, but he was surprised to find that after he agreed, this beautiful insect creature actually became more colorful, almost turning into a small sun, shining in all directions. Ha ha ha, Your Excellency Jia Yan is so good at talking to women. You see, our concubine Kun is even shy. The Lord of the North Territory found that the situation was a bit awkward, so he made a joke at the right time, then looked at both sides, thinking that there should be no fight, so he suggested. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2372. Well, it's not that good to talk about affairs in the starry sky. Why don't you two go sit on our main star of northern morning rain? Although the meeting hall of our 3 brothers is not as grand and huge as the hall of the Shanlu forces, it still has a few hundred kilometers away is worse than standing shabby in the universe. That's fine. Jia Yan didn't know why the other party was looking for him, but he still knew how to treat guests, so he nodded lightly. Good. But the approaching female creature felt a little unnatural. She nodded a little hesitantly, as if she was nervous. Are you still afraid that I will do something to him? Jia Yan looked at this female creature and snorted coldly. He understood that the Shanlu forces, or simply Shanl himself, would not be happy if he stayed in this area, so the people sent there might have told him to get out of here quickly. Because of this, this female creature felt nervous after meeting Jia Yan, and she didn't want to go to the secret room to discuss matters, right? Because then there is no chance of escape. But even in the universe, Jia Yan didn't think that she could escape his grasp even if she was just a beginner in the galaxy. Jia Yan had a lot of inner drama, but he never thought that he had not guessed it at all. The brain circuits of female creatures are really different from those of ordinary male creatures. She was thinking about whether being in the same room with Jia Yan would make her explode on the spot, so she was nervous. Let's go. The 4 domain lords and the female galaxy class from the Mountain Green Force flew together to the home star of the Northern Morning Rain Force. The feeling of the 5 powerful men flying together was quite shocking. Of course, Baichaniu's forces also have other galactic levels, but their status is completely inferior to the 5 powerful men flying in front, so they can only follow half a step behind and follow from a distance. Not long after, the Baichaniu home planet arrived. After all, it was not a powerful force. Facing the speed of the galaxy, it was like a 100-meter track, and it arrived quickly. This is the mother planet of our power. It cannot be compared with the Shanl power. Our council room is even smaller. Concubine Kun, please don't mind. When the North Territory Lord came down to the planet, it was a bit embarrassing. This was a normal reaction when facing someone from a stronger force. There was nothing I could do about it. Who could make someone so powerful, even if his personal strength was compared to that of the Territory Lord? It's close, but I'm sure I'll be strong. It's normal to have an inferiority complex. The Lord of the North Territory is too modest. The forces of Northern Morning Rain have managed this planet so well. Even in this area, it is considered a good one. It is not as bad as you said. In addition, Your Excellency, the Lord of the North Territory, in the outside world, I prefer others to call me Kun, rather than concubine. The colorful female galaxy-level being seemed to dislike being called a concubine. While saying this, she frequently and secretly looked at Jia Yan, who was standing aside. Damn it! Seeing this scene, the Northern Territory Lord was almost stunned. Jia Yan didn't notice the concubine's behavior, but she didn't hide it from the others next to her, so the 3 brothers from the Northern Chennai forces discovered her strange behavior. At this moment, each of the 3 territory lords felt dizzy, feeling like they understood something, but also seemed to understand nothing at all. Jia Yan is considered a beautiful man among insect-type creatures, and they understand that, because even if they are not insect-type creatures, they can feel the unique sense of perfection of this strong man. But I didn't expect that this guy was so perfect that he would even make a senior domain lord's concubine fall into it. It's not like a weak person is capable of having a crush on another creature of the opposite sex casually. But the facts are right in front of them, and the 3 domain lords have to admit that it seems, as if, probably, possibly, the current concubine of Shanlu has developed a liking for the domain lord Jia Yan in front of her. God, what is this? Isn't she someone else's concubine? How did he end up falling in love with Jia Yan, and it seems that Jia Yan himself doesn't know this female at all. Why? Just because he's handsome. Damn, I'm pretty handsome too. The presence of these 3 territory lords, 1 or 2, feels a bit sour. They are also very handsome. Why don't the concubines of other domain lords come to their door? They don't lack any ordinary female creatures, but that's not interesting. If you want, you have to pry the partners of other strong men. How interesting. For a moment, emotions such as envy, jealousy, hatred, etc., lingered in the hearts of the 3 major domain masters. However, they had nothing to say. They just watched Jia Yan fly to the bottom of the planet with them, as if they didn't understand anything. During the exchange, they didn't say anything different. They just talked about good neighborliness and friendship, etc., and made some useless remarks. Even Jia Yan couldn't get in the conversation because he didn't have that status. By the way, I have something to say to Senior Jia Yan. I wonder if the seniors from Baichanayu can give me this face. Halfway through the conversation, Concubine Kun suddenly spoke seemingly calmly. Coming. The three northern Chanayu territory masters were immediately struck by the idea that their speculations just now were not just imagination, but that this concubine really had a crush on Jia Yan. Do you want to talk to Jia Yan alone now? Talking is fake, but speaking your mind is real. Creatures in the universe can live a long life no matter how much time they have, but everyone actually doesn't spend much time on relationships. Many strong people adhere to the idea of making good use of their time. Generally, they can save money by confessing their love or even starting a family. It saves time and is neat and tidy. Therefore, Concubine Kun was talking to Jia Yan alone, and she might have confessed her love directly. They can't control this matter, as long as it doesn't cause any trouble. Then let's take our leave first. Your Excellency Jia Yan, please forgive me Concubine Kun, Ms. Kun. Okay. Jia Yan nodded, calmly. Now that things have happened, the weird feeling of depression in his heart seems to have reached its peak, so Jia Yan is quite sure that the source of his sense of threat comes from the Concubine Kun in front of him, and this is why Jia Yan wants to. The reason for agreeing to the current matter is because he feels that the person who ties the bell needs to be untied. If the source of his threat comes from this concubine, then she needs to untie it herself. At least ask clearly what is the threat to him. But Jia Yan didn't expect that the so-called source of threat was not a real threat, but something that caught him off guard. Lord Jia Yan, they have all left. When the three brothers from Baichanayu's forces filed out with meaningful expressions on their faces, only Jia Yan and the colorful female insect creature were left in this huge palace that was hundreds of kilometers away. Well, they left. I wonder, Ms. Kun, is there anything you want to say to me? Jia Yan looked at the door and saw that it was tightly closed. Presumably with the security and sound insulation of this palace, and even its ability to isolate the power of brain waves, the outside world should not know what happened here to a certain extent. Jia Yan was still thinking that if he forced a confession later and some violent incident occurred, he could use his brainwave power to isolate everything around him, so that there would be no video recording or other sequelae. So he just sneered and looked at the female creature in front of him, thinking that the showdown was just around the corner. Jia Yan was also taking a deep breath. What happened next was likely to be beyond imagination. For example, some mountain green emerged from the mountain and had a fight, or the three brothers outside turned against each other, or there were other traps. Without these, his powerful sixth sense would not be so intense, so Jia Yan was fully prepared. But even so, he didn't believe that he could still fall into such an area. The strongest are just some senior domain lords, and together they may not kill more than he did in the final battle in the territory where the North Star Master has power. Jia Yan was really annoyed, so he simply used the last remaining explosives and blasted them to pieces in one breath, turning the entire area into mud to see who was plotting against whom. Jia Yan had a good idea. I also made up my mind. But what he never expected was that when the female creature said the next words, it was a possibility that he had never thought of. That is, Master Jia Yan, I like you, why don't we be together? What the hell? My ears are broken, did I hear wrongly? Jia Yan was stunned for a while. After all the calculations, I thought my calculations were correct, but she was a female creature, so how could the words spoken in one breath be something that a male creature could think of? As the old saying goes, don't guess what a woman is thinking, you won't be able to guess it right. Jia Yan really couldn't guess that what she said when she stayed to talk to him alone was like this. Seeing that Jia Yan was stunned, the female insect creature in front of him became more dazzling, probably because she was shy or because she was in emotion. Lord Jia Yan, I know you are worried about Shanlu, but I know Shanlu's abilities. I also understand that he is not good at speed. As long as we join together and start escaping from here immediately, it is impossible for him to catch up. Every time when he has a partner, he usually can't catch up with his partner's lover. What's more, your innate ability should be in the subspace, so as long as we board your planet and escape from this area quickly, we can't find Shanlu. Come to us, what do you think? Well, Jia Yan hasn't said a word yet. Everyone is talking about how to escape from the pursuit of the Mountain Green Territory Lord. For a moment, Jia Yan didn't know what to say. After a moment of silence, I realized that the other person was a charming female creature. Generally speaking, her emotional intelligence was very high. She just said so much in one breath just because she was a little too excited. So when I saw Jia Yan still stunned, I immediately realized that Jia Yan couldn't accept her yet. Lord Jia Yan, or you, do you think I'm not pretty enough to be favored by you? She was extremely aggrieved, and the words she spoke in a tone that made even strong men feel their blood boil. If it had been another strong person, he might have softened his heart, and since this female creature was really beautiful, he might have agreed. After all, even in terms of profit, a galaxy-level existence is enough to protect itself and be used as a subordinate, and it is absolutely enough. Plus, you have a beautiful and lovely female as your partner. I still love you so much. No one would think too much about it. But Jia Yan was not among them. The first reason is, of course, that he simply cannot accept insects. This female creature looks like an insect. No matter how beautiful it is, it can only be admired, but it is impossible to imagine what will happen to it. Another point is that Jia Yan already has a family. What's more, considering issues such as the forces of the enemy and ourselves, it is impossible to accept the existence of a person who has a probability of being an enemy assassin or spy. This, Ms. Kun, I think you may have said something wrong. This is the first time we have met. You don't even know me, so why did you say you like me? Haha, I can pretend that you don't. It happened before, please don't mention it again. Jia Yan shook his head and covered up the matter as if he were joking. No, Master Jia Yan. This may be the first time you have met me, but I have already known about you from videos, the internet, and your portrait. I have collected everything about you, even I know your temper, I know that you are very good at intelligence, and I also know that your strength is definitely not as simple as it seems on the surface. Knowing you so well, do you think I am joking? Or, you, think I am worthy, won't I hum you? When she mentioned that she was not worthy, Concubine Kun burst into tears. She felt that the confession she had mustered up the courage to do was a bit short-lived. After all, she was a beautiful girl and usually never confessed to others. Now that she has done this, she feels that she has taken the initiative. So shy and tight. Well, Jia Yan really wants to ask, if you know me from superficial information, do you think you know me? What's more, even if you understand me, I don't understand you. Sorry, who are you? Just come to the door and say, let's get together. Even an earthling man would be frightened when he meets a beautiful woman like this. What's more, Jia Yan himself is not bad either. Even if Jia Yan doesn't want to say this, the facts are the same as what Concubine Kun said. She doesn't deserve it? I'm younger than you, and I'm stronger than you. Besides, I don't like insects, and I don't like to do any tricks outside marriage, so I'm sorry. But, after all, it was a beautiful woman who confessed her love to him, and he was secretly happy anyway, so Jia Yan didn't intend to hurt anyone too much. Well, I'm sorry, Ms. Kun, I already have a family, and I think my strength is still improving rapidly, so I don't plan to accept other females for the time being. Besides, you should be the lover of the Lord of the Mountain Green Territory. It's better to maintain the relationship between you properly. It's impossible for us, do you understand? Jia Yan shook his head and said as if he was sincere. With these words, Jia Yan felt that he had said it perfectly. It was impossible to kick someone out. There were not many people in the universe who admired him so much. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2373. What? Mr. Jia Yan, no, Yan, you actually have a family? Where are the children? Concubine Khan seemed to be extremely shocked and asked such a question involuntarily. Jia Yan nodded, I have a child. Then, are your wife and children's strength reaching or exceeding the stellar level? That's not the case, I feel like it's still far behind. As soon as Jia Yan talked about Satsamakan and Jiarong, he felt a little helpless. In fact, when his own strength was still low and he had not gone through several mutations, Jiarong Samokan used unique genetic means to give birth to a child who must have been astonishing and extremely talented at the time, but he did not inherit it. Jia Yan's genes mutated several times later, and because he is not an evolved beast, his talent is actually very ordinary now, and can even be called scum. In the central star field of the Milky Way, any ordinary low-level creature can be almost the same as Jiarong. His son is like this, and his grandson Jia 11 is even worse, so Jia Yan is helpless. Not above the star level? For us galaxy-level powerhouses, this can't be called an heir at all. This is even more true for my wife. She is not even above the star level, and she has no blood relationship with you. She is just a companion. It can be thrown away at any time, so Yan, you may not have a family. Jia Yan was startled, and then fell silent for a while. It wasn't that he agreed with her words, but Jia Yan felt that in this universe, it was indeed a universe of strong men, and even the definition of heir was so refreshing that it completely ruined one's outlook. So Jia Yan was silent for a while, but this silence made this colorful female creature misunderstand that Jia Yan agreed with her words, so the colors on her body became more vivid. Point, extremely excited. Master Jia Yan, since you don't have a family, you might as well consider me. I also have galactic level strength, and will be a better partner for you, and I am older than you, in some aspects, it may be much better than you imagine, and you will gain supreme happiness, do you understand? Jia Yan remained silent. Only this time, he looked at this colorful creature with a novel look. What happiness, what the hell, Chi Kuakuo is trying to lure me into trouble. Is I so easy to cause trouble? It won't be good. Jia Yan specifically stared at the beautiful insect shapes, his eyes darting everywhere. If you turned into a human beauty, I wouldn't be able to think about it. Unfortunately, you are an insect monster. How could I accept it? Jia Yan shook his head. He felt that throughout his life, even if he agreed with the outside world's biological aesthetics, he would never be able to agree with these monsters as partners with him. But I am very curious, how do alien creatures play, and they are also strong? What methods do strong people have? Jia Yan felt a little itchy, but the problem was that it was impossible. He already had a family, and he still had the same family concept as on Earth. Stop. Ms. Khan, let me make something clear to you first. I, Jia Yan, am not that kind of person, because the folk customs in my hometown are not what you said. This has nothing to do with strength or lack of strength. Family is family. Since we are already family, I will not change because of their strength. Can you understand what I mean? Well, if you come to me, this is what you want to say. I think I have said it clearly enough. Please forgive me. Farewell. After Jia Yan said this calmly, he walked out of the hall regardless of the female creature's persistence, and then entered the subspace. Yan. Master Jia Yan. The female creature behind her screamed repeatedly, and her voice was so miserable that the 3 domain masters outside the door and many creatures on the entire planet heard it. Rock. There is something about this title. Did the relationship develop so quickly? But it seems that Jia Yan is not accepting this situation. As expected of a handsome guy, you won't accept any females offered to you? The 3 domain masters expressed their envy. After all, with this level of strength, it is really difficult to find a female creature that is roughly worthy of them. You must know that after the galaxy level strength, there will be fewer females. It would be difficult for a territory lord to find a female from a galaxy level existence, so they were envious. But how can I meet a straight man? This, Concubine Kun, what are you doing? Don't call me Concubine Kun, my name is Kun. Concubine Kun was angry again and roared angrily. The 3 major domain lords were all frightened, and each of them remained silent as they watched Concubine Kun move towards the residence area where they had arranged for foreign guests to move in. This is the nature of this female. When she gets angry, it's like eating gunpowder. If it were an ordinary female, they wouldn't care about their temper. If they dared to confront them, they would just kill them. But the other party was Concubine Kun, and they didn't dare to provoke her. There was a senior domain lord standing behind her. Killing them was like slaughtering chickens. How could they dare to provoke her? Jia Yan, you simply don't take me seriously. Aren't I about 300 years older than him? Is he now older? Concubine Kun was so angry that she was almost crying when she went to the foreign hotel. She still had some confidence in herself and thought that even if Jia Yan didn't accept it, she wouldn't humiliate herself. But what she never expected was that not only did Jia Yan not accept her, he also humiliated herself. This incident greatly reduced her confidence in herself. But, he is still so handsome, really handsome. I feel that the lover I most want to find in my life has appeared, and he is also such a terrifyingly talented person. When I stood next to him just now, I still felt when it comes to his terrifying strength, the abyss is like the sea, even if he stands next to Shanlu, that's it. In other words, if Jia Yan is not a senior, he is almost a senior, and he is really the same age as the rumors. It can be said that it has a bright future. In the future, there may be opportunities to break through to the senior level, and even be promoted to the high level of the galaxy. Thinking that such a good and strong male could look down on her, Concubine Kun felt as if she had eaten a fly, feeling extremely uncomfortable. By the way, he talked about his hometown? But no one knows where his hometown is. It is said that he came from the outside world. Could it be that he is a native creature outside the Milky Way central star? In the Milky Way central star in the domain, although there are far fewer strong people compared to the black hole area and the superstar, they are not actually weak. It is natural to cultivate such a talented domain master. As for the outside world, those who are not Mang Huang, well, it's impossible. Concubine Kun analyzed the reasons for her failure, and then thought about Jia Yan's information. If he is a genius and strong man in the central star field of the Milky Way, you can see a lot of capable females there, so it is understandable that he is not attracted to me for the time being, but, he said that his wife, is an existence that is less than a star level. How could I lose to such a little kid? I don't believe it. I must find out about his hometown. Of course, this matter cannot be known to him. Concubine Kun, who felt that the love of her life was right in front of her eyes and could not miss it, made up her mind. The more you can't get it, the more you want it. Regardless of male or female, this is a universal truth, so this strong female is fully prepared and determined to find out more information about Jia Yan, and then get it. The heart of this strong man. Originally, Jia Yan believed that a strong man's persistence should be gender neutral. This galaxy-level female territory lord should struggle with him for 2 more days before giving up. Unexpectedly, after Jia Yan made a firm stance, the concubine actually chose to leave the next day. However, Jia Yan received the communication content in the communication method he reluctantly exchanged with the other party yesterday. Yan, my heart remains unchanged. Just wait, you will fall in love with me. Jia Yan output and eliminated the word impossible. After thinking about it carefully, he felt that he couldn't offend the people who like him in this way. They would be so sad. You finally got an admirer, don't turn into a hater. But he didn't reply either, so as to prevent the other party from making any further progress. Jia Yan didn't believe that he would fall in love with the other person, not to mention that the female had already run away. If he didn't get close contact, he would be in love with her. Sir, if you have a problem with concubine Kun, the Mountain Green forces will definitely take action against us. The lord of their Mountain Green territory would hate this kind of thing the most. Yes, it is said that 500 years ago, such a concubine ran away. As a result, Shanlu personally took action and eradicated the concubine's mother force within 3 days, and then went to find the male's hometown. I just heard that the male's hometown is superstar, and after he entered the game for a year, he returned from injury, and no one mentioned this male anymore. As soon as the concubine left, 3 territorial lords from the northern Chennai forces came to the door and talked to Jia Yan about the matter. They didn't know the purpose of the arrival of the female Galaxy class, but when the other party said that she wanted to talk to Jia Yan face to face, they understood. This matter is a personal emotional issue, but when it involves a senior domain lord and the huge force behind him, the Baichanayu forces cannot ignore it. They are extremely complex. Well, Jia Yan agreed to the other party. They were afraid. If they didn't agree to the other party, they were also afraid. All kinds of thoughts were entangled, which made the 3 powerful figures of the domain lord very depressed. If they had hair, they would lose dozens of tons a day. Whether this kind of thing is big or small, it all depends on how Jia Yan and concubine Na Kun will develop next. If such a thing really angers the lord of the Mountain Green territory, the entire northern morning rain force everyone will be affected. Jia Yan has subdimensional abilities, so there is no problem in escaping, but Baichanayu's forces are finished. They can't escape or fight, and they can only wait to die. So how can they not worry? Don't worry about this. I've made it clear to her that I won't be with her. Jia Yan was calm and did not talk about the conversation between himself and the female creature, because the matter was personal privacy. However, if he said he didn't agree, he usually wouldn't lie. The 3 domain masters of Baichanayu's force still believed in this. A being with Jia Yan's strength would not lie easily, and lying would be harmful to Jia Yan. No good. Is that so? That's great. If this matter can be settled, we can at least cause less trouble. The Lord of the North Territory sighed longly and felt a big stone in his heart suddenly let go. To Jia Yan, this may be just a beautiful memory of being favored by a beautiful girl, but to their Baichanayu forces, it is a major event that is likely to affect Chiyu and lead to his demise. Fortunately, since Jia Yan said it would be resolved, there should be no further problems. By the way, Your Excellency Jia Yan, there have been more and more forces trading with our forces recently. I wonder if Your Excellency Jia Yan is willing to have a dialogue with some of these forces. With the partner issue over, the 3 of them stopped pestering Jia Yan and turned to talking about business. Oh? Can these forces bring benefits to our northern morning rain forces? Do I have a share of these benefits? Without my share, there is no point in seeing them, you know. Jia Yan spoke out about his greed without caring what the 3 brothers thought. Well, Your Excellency Jia Yan, having good relations with these forces will naturally be beneficial to our northern Chennai forces, and these benefits will naturally be helpful to you. As long as we can negotiate what we need, you can probably let's distribute the supplies twice as much as before. Double. When Jia Yan heard the noun, his eyes suddenly lit up. Although this twice the amount of supplies was less than half of what he had as an instructor at Biostar, He didn't feel unhappy at all. The place is different, this is the starry sky, and the supplies are not even the slightest bit inferior to those of the great star. He doesn't think that when he goes to the outside world, he can still harvest more supplies than the North Star, even if he goes to run a force. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many domain masters going to the North Star. In addition to enjoying the feeling of being a strong person at a higher level, more powerful people would go to the North Star to collect supplies, because it is easier to harvest inside than outside. It is also richer, but the risk is naturally higher. For these twice the supplies, please, but you agreed, so what if I meet them? Jia Yan looks like a money grubber, and his compound eyes are full of money-obsessed luster. That's natural. Your Excellency, Jia Yan's interests are our interests, and these are all written in the terms, and we will naturally abide by them. It was not clear what the three domain masters were thinking, but at least on the surface they still obeyed Jia Yan's words. And it sounds like how they respect the terms they have signed, and this term is extremely important. The reason for this is to ask Jia Yan to read the terms in his future actions. In this way, they will have one more reason to really ask Jia Yan, which may be life-saving in the future. That's good. Jia Yan smiled. Let's not talk about how Jia Yan is here, playing intrigues and alliance games with the three major domain lords of the Northern Morning Rain Force, but only about Concubine Kun, who left the Northern Morning Rain Force. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2374. She still hasn't given up on Jia Yan. Let me investigate. Although there is not much information about his trajectory into the black hole area when he came out of the North Giant, if you investigate carefully, you can still find it. For example, I will search for the next space powerhouse and so on. Information. Hey, there were rumors about this force that they were chasing an insect-like subspace strongman, and even the Domain Lord personally took action, but he escaped. What a powerful subspace strongman, but he is just a star in the galaxy. The top of the stairs, forget it, let's look at the photos. Concubine Kun, who was casually looking around, opened the photo of this galaxy-level space powerhouse, but she felt as if she had been immobilized by the immobilization method, and her whole body felt as if she had been struck by lightning. Because the insect-like creature that appeared in this photo was a figure that she was extremely familiar with. Especially recently, I have been dreaming about it every day. Rock. At this moment, Concubine Kun only felt her breathing suddenly stagnant. It's impossible, it should be similar, but it's too similar. Apart from strength and size, even the demeanor is exactly the same as him. All of Mophiian's races are a handsome guy with subdimensional talents. Thinking of this, she felt that she needed to go over there and ask. Your Excellency Jia Yan, there is one thing we did not tell you clearly before, which is about a strong man who came to our power about a few years ago to search for a subspace galaxy level. Oh? What does this matter have to do with me? Are there still few people with strong subspace talents in the black hole area? That's not the case, but when the powerful Domain Lord came to us to inquire, the photos and images he gave, seemed to be, some similar to you. It seems that the creatures that existed in the space at that time were the look of your junior. In the Northern Morning Rain Force, just after Jia Yan said goodbye to Concubine Kun, the three-star Morning Rain Force domain masters deliberately talked about something about Jia Yan in order to resolve the embarrassment. They had been holding this matter in their minds for a while, but they had always thought that it might have nothing to do with Jia Yan. The leader of the black hole area who came here to inquire about the whereabouts of the intermediate junior of the galaxy was actually the leader of a medium-sized force. Of course, he existed on the edge of the black hole area. He came to the Baikonau forces to ask, just to see what happened. Baikonau's influence has no roots, so he thought it was easy to handle and would give him face, so he dared to come and ask. It's just that the middle-level junior in the galaxy that this person asked was not the creature they knew at that time. Therefore, when the domain master heard the news that there was no subspace strongman in Baikonau's forces, he felt a little regretful. Left. But today, not long after meeting Jia Yan, the three territory lords remembered Jia Yan's appearance and his subspace talent, the subspace junior whom the territory lord had asked about things. But they didn't think that the subspace gifted creature would really have anything to do with Jia Yan, because although the subspace gifted creature looked very similar to Jia Yan, only a few years later, said if it were Jia Yan himself, would he be promoted to territory lord now? And with such a powerful territory lord, this is simply impossible. And if they are said to be Jia Yan's descendants, then they don't think it is worthy of belief, because Jia Yan said that he is not a creature in the black hole area, and even from his words, it sounds like he is not even a creature. The existence in the central star field of the Milky Way, the hometown of such a strong man, must be extremely far away. Will his descendants go to the black hole area? What's more important is that if it is Jia Yan's junior, he has not allowed the Baikonau forces to mobilize their own energy to search for so many days. This is even more unreasonable. Therefore, they determined that this middle-level junior in the galaxy who looked like Jia Yan should have nothing to do with Jia Yan, even if there was even a slight resemblance. But what he didn't expect was that when Jia Yan saw the news, he was slightly startled. "Three of you, is the domain master who found you the master of the forces on the edge of the black hole?" Jia Yan asked calmly. The expressions of Baikonau and the three others also changed. Could it be that Jia Yan really knew if space talent existed this time? Could it be that he is really Jia Yan's junior? In this case, the three domain masters were a little frightened. They had hidden this news for a long time. Jia Yan would not blame them for not telling them earlier. "Well, Your Excellency Jia Yan, this territory lord is indeed a member of the Black Hole Fringe forces, but he does not have much trade relations with our northern Chennai forces. I wonder if this subspace powerhouse in the portrait is he your junior? Younger generation?" Jia Yan looked at the three domain masters in surprise. With such similar appearances, would they all be considered juniors? By the way, even the temperament is the same. But after thinking about it, it's no wonder that the self in this image is just the self from a few years ago. If it were not a junior but himself, it would be too terrifying. Even Jia Yan himself would not believe this. What happened was that a few years ago, a being who was hunted down by an ordinary domain lord and had almost no way to go to heaven or earth, unexpectedly, in just a few years, impacted the domain lord, and even reached the senior level. At the domain lord level, this is something unbelievable to anyone. Even for himself, he found it a bit unbelievable and felt that this matter was difficult to replicate. Of course, this is also because he entered Biostar. If Biostar's training environment and speed were not far superior to the outside world, it would be difficult for Jia Yan to do such a thing even with his talent. Jia Yan himself feels like he is in a dream when talking about his life trajectory in the past few years. Well, yes, this one has something to do with me. Thinking about this, Jia Yan did not directly tell the three beings of Baikonau's force that he was the subspace talented person. He is really a junior of His Excellency Jia Yan, a sect with 2 galactic middle level or above. This is really a big family, and there are 2 subdimensional talents. Although Your Excellency Jia Yan, this junior is not a domain lord, he is still capable of escaping from a domain lord, which is equivalent to half a domain lord. The noble race is really powerful. Several territory lords were amazed. Even though they regard the subspace strongman as a junior, this does not prevent them from recognizing this strong man who can escape the pursuit of a domain lord. At the intermediate galaxy stage, one was able to escape the pursuit of a territory lord. It was even said that the territory lord's power was ruined everywhere because of this intermediate galaxy with subspace talent. There were even many. The death and injury made the territory lord furious, and he hunted for a long time, but still failed to gain anything. Such a person is not considered a half-domain master. What is a half-domain master? Even if you can't fight a territory lord head-on, you can escape the territory lord's pursuit and then cause trouble behind his power. The existence of such a mid-level peak of the galaxy is really helpless. And if he is a relative of Jia Yan or something, it means that the race of creatures like Jia Yan is too awesome. Even if the domain lords don't think that the mid-level subspace master of the galaxy is no threat to them, but to the outside world, this kind of existence is quite a headache. Even if they are provoked by Bachanayu's forces, they will be helpless because they can't beat you and can escape. If such a mid-level star is at the peak of the galaxy, coupled with Jia Yan's terrifying subspace talent domain master, then it will really be more than just the effect of 1+1, but the effect of 1+1 exceeding 10, one like this. Even if there are 3 or 4 territory lords surrounding the race, they don't dare to provoke them, and even the senior territory lords don't dare to move lightly. Huh? No, if that person is a junior of His Excellency Jia Yan, then he is being chased by a domain lord. This. Suddenly, the 3 domain masters thought of this, and then their expressions changed. After all, for Jia Yan, his junior was being hunted down by a territory lord. This might be something that might arouse his anger. The 3 territory lords would not dare to hide this kind of thing casually. Your Excellency Jia Yan, that territory lord really doesn't have a close relationship with us. Let's let you know his information. If you need any help, even if you let me, Bachanayu, help you solve this problem, our opponents will not be stingy with our manpower. After the 3 of them said this, 1 or 2 of them looked at Jia Yan a little nervous. God knows when Jia Yan heard that his junior was being hunted by a domain lord, and it had been many years. If he didn't know whether he was alive or dead, would he suddenly become angry, and then transfer his anger to them? But things were very strange. Not only was Jia Yan not angry, he didn't even inquire too much about the so-called junior, but only inquired about the domain lord's information. Of course, Jia Yan doesn't need more information about the junior, because he himself is the junior. So why do you need any information of your own? He just felt that if he didn't mention this territory lord, he would have forgotten that he had an enemy in the black hole area. It was the group of people who inexplicably chased him after he came to the black hole area. One of the forces, and the one that pursued him most embarrassingly and was the most threatening. The territory lord at the time dismounted himself from the very beginning, chasing him until he was almost exhausted, and then even pursued him to this starry sky. If Jia Yan had not entered the North Superstar, but stayed in the outside world for a while longer time, maybe they will find clues and then kill them in the outside world. This is so scary, I'm scared to think about it. Since this force holds such a grudge against me, then there is revenge for hatred and kindness for kindness. Jia Yan thought about this calmly, and then continued to ask questions about this force and its owner. But it's easy to agree. This kind of force generally doesn't have much background, and there is only one territory lord in charge. It may be an extremely powerful force in the starry sky outside, but in the black hole area, just like they are doing now, setting up a power on the edge of the black hole area and living their lives like this. And the current Jia Yan, to put it bluntly, he can even make some appearances in the black hole area in such a core area, let alone the ability to go to the edge areas. Compared with Jia Yan's strength when he came to Biostar, the current positions of Jia Yan and that force are completely reversed. He has reached the territory lord level, and he is not an ordinary territory lord, but a senior territory lord who cannot even be defeated by several major territory lords together. He has even developed his experience in the North Star Superstar, which is talked about by everyone in the outside world. Massive killings, even senior domain lords killed several terrifying combat-type domain lords. Guys, this information is a favor. I've written it down. Okay, I'll leave for a while now. If you have some people coming to visit recently or have some unimportant matters, please don't look for me. Goodbye. Jia Yan didn't say anything else, just nodded calmly, and then got into the subspace. The Edisha star had long followed Jia Yan and arrived in the subspace behind the Baikanu star. Jia Yan stepped onto the planet in one step. Edisha, have you repaired the planet? Master, Edita is almost done repairing it. All the remaining materials are on the planet. You can leave anytime you want. The light and shadow mosquito that Editha transformed into flew out of its brain building and flew around Jia Yan, obviously looking extremely happy. Is it almost done? This northern morning rainforest has contributed a lot of good things. During the period of leaving, you can't completely give up on this force. Come back to get some harvest after a while. Jia Yan calmly looked at the starry sky outside the subspace, and saw that outside, the three powerful domain masters were still looking into the subspace in fear. They didn't know what Jia Yan was planning to do. Maybe he was looking for the territory lord who was chasing his junior, or maybe he felt that the northern Chennai forces had something to hide from him, so he left with hatred. After all, there were some regulations. Yes, but can this kind of thing really restrict a subspace domain lord? If he leaves, the huge attention that the northern morning rainforest has recently attracted because of Jia Yan may soon turn into pressure in the future, and maybe even the northern morning rainforest will be destroyed. Let's go, you three are fine. Jia Yan didn't explain what he wanted to do at all. He just sent a piece of brainwave power to Shiyuan, and then urged Edisha to drive the Edisha star from the subspace. Dive in quickly. Buzz buzz. Inside the subspace, a large area of distortion was pushed away. The 10-dimensional subspace that should not have been smoothly entered so quickly actually flew into the subspace without even the slightest pressure, and it entered the subspace steadily. Wow, Master, Edissa's star seems to have become much more powerful. It must be the new brain that Edissa installed has taken effect, ha ha ha. Edisha was almost frightened, circling around Jia Yan, and kept laughing. It didn't know that a star as huge as Edisha could enter subspace very quickly, but because of Jia Yan's help. After reaching the domain lord level, Jia Yan already has enough ability to push the speed of Edi 4 star, otherwise it will slowly enter the 10-dimensional space by itself. Not only is the speed slow, but Jia Yan also feels anxious for it. Text download address. Phone reading. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2375. After using the power of brainwaves to push the Edisha star into the 10-dimensional space, Jia Yan thought for a while and then said something to Edisha. Edisha, I have something to tell you first. You can't be so excited anymore, okay? His voice was very solemn. Edisha stopped flying next to Jia Yan, turned back curiously, and stared at her master strangely. Master, what do you want to say? Edisha is definitely not excited, because Edisha's computing power has been greatly improved. That's good. Jia Yan nodded, then looked at the brain buildings where Edisha's body was located, and said slowly, that's it, your master and I have indeed reached the level of a domain lord, and I am not an ordinary domain lord. Edisha was startled for a moment, and then laughed out loud, making a happy sound. Ha 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 ha, he, okay, the master is the domain lord, why don't you believe it? Edisha believes you. It sounded like it was playing with a child. Jia Yan looked at Ji now speechlessly, and then sighed, Edisha, master, I am not lying to you. I have never lied to you, right? This time is no exception. I am really a domain master lord, and I was promoted in Biostar. At that time, I was even a fighting type that was popular among Biostar. My strength just after promotion was comparable to that of senior domain lords, so I was able to conquer the 3 domain lords of Northern Morning Rain. Plus a group of outside domain lords. Do you understand what I mean? Huh? Edisha's compound eyes froze for a moment, and then she turned her head in disbelief and stared at Jia Yan. Master, have you really been promoted to Territory Lord? That's right, the real domain master. And you are also a Territory Lord who is as powerful as a senior Territory Lord. Not bad, a domain lord whose combat power is equivalent to that of Zi Shen domain master. This. Editha's abnormal behavior made Jia Yan very nervous. Last time, this little light and shadow brain burned down a whole building. If it happened again, he wouldn't be able to bear it. The small light and shadow mosquito floated in the air for a while, as if it was brewing something, and Jia Yan was nervous for a while. Unexpectedly, after a while, Edisha jumped 3 feet high and shouted happily. Wahahaha, wowhahaha, Master Edisha is the domain lord. Edisha has a powerful master. Ha 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 ha, look at you bullying Edisha and make you chase me. My master will beat you up. Editha jumped up and down with joy. Jia Yan was so frightened that he thought it was finally completely broken. He secretly took a look at the Jinao building behind him and found that this time the Jinao building was just running crazily with a loud sound. But there is no risk of burning. Jia Yan suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. He felt that he had upgraded Edisha correctly this time. What happened last time was that it was burned down, but nothing happened this time. Seeing Edisha as happy as a child and jumping up and down, Jia Yan also showed a smile. Edisha, don't get too excited, otherwise there will be another problem in the brain building. Why is there something wrong with the intelligent brain building? Edisha doesn't know. Editha jumped up and down, as if confused. It no longer remembers that it burned down its brain because of the same piece of news, because that memory was erased by Jia Yan. Forget it, just be happy. In short, your master and I will be a powerful territory lord in the future. We don't have to be so timid in the future. This time we are also going to go to the one who once hunted us down. Let's take a look among the forces and make them pay a certain price, do you understand? It turned out that I was looking for someone to cause trouble, ha ha ha, Edisha understands. Edisha laughed strangely, and Jia Yan discovered that after this little guy got the new Speed Smart Brain hardware, his processing speed became faster, and his reaction and association abilities also became stronger. To put it bluntly, under its original intelligence and human nature, it has become closer and closer to living things. Of course, it also has advantages among living things, and that lies in its memory and calculation capabilities. After accepting that Jia Yan is a domain lord, Edisha's character and temper seem to have returned to their former unscrupulousness, driving an Edisha star and running rampant in the 10-dimensional space. Of course, in this 10-dimensional subspace, there is nothing for it to show off, only endless black. Huh? There is a female creature of the first level of the galaxy at the door. Do you want to meet me? Does it look good? Within a force called the Influence Force, a territory lord existed, with faint ripples rippling around his body. He then looked at the subordinates who came to report below. He was extremely suspicious, but he knew that the visitor was a female creature. At that moment, his eyes suddenly lit up. Well, sir, this female creature is very beautiful. Okay, let her in. A galaxy-level female creature, this makes even a territory lord a little interested. The only galaxy-level creature in the universe that can be worthy of territory lord-level existence, but there are very few galaxy-level females. There are many. It is rare for a territory lord to encounter a galaxy-level female a few times in his life. So given the opportunity, even if the other party didn't necessarily come here for this, he still wouldn't mind meeting this female girl. After leading the galaxy-level creatures into the land of the dominant star, The Domain Lord creature's eyes froze for a moment. It's really stunning. Although it is different from the Domain Lord's appearance and race, it is an insect-like creature, but from a biological point of view, it is an almost perfect race. The entire wing feathers are full of brilliance, like a dazzling and beautiful creature, the type that countless males can't help but fall in love with. The eyes of this Domain Lord creature, which he hadn't cared about at first, lit up, and he quickly sat up straighter from his prostrate posture. "My lady friend, I wonder why you came to my power? I think if there is anything that needs my help, I will be happy to help." The name of this territory lord is Yin, which shows that his Yin power is his one-man speech. That's why he dared to say that he could decide whether to help or not with this female creature's request. As for the colorful creature who came, after entering, he silently looked at the male Domain Lord who made bold words, with a hint of sarcasm in his mood. This guy showed his lust from the beginning, and he was so similar to her previous lover Shan Lu. It was a pity that she would no longer fall in love with such a being. She fell in love with a relatively cold creature, the most handsome one she had ever seen, and probably the most profound one. This is how female creatures are. After falling in love with someone, they regard that person as the best in the world. I came to your force to investigate. A few years ago, one of your forces had a conflict with a strong person with subspace talent. I wonder if you can reveal it? The female creature said calmly. After the leader of the leading domain heard about the subspace gifted creature, his expression condensed and he showed a hint of sinister emotion. He took a good look at the female creature and finally snorted slightly. "Is this subspace gifted creature? Haha, before asking, I would like to ask, what is your name? It would be a bit too rude for a visitor to not even state his name." "My name is Kun, you must be the lord of the Yin territory. There is no need to introduce this kind of introduction, I just came to ask a question." It turns out that the visitor is concubine Kun. She came here to escape the information about Jia Yan, and her purpose was not to deal with Jia Yan or anything, but to find Jia Yan's roots, especially about his wife. "Miss Kun? Very good, Miss Kun. I wonder what you mean by asking about that subspace gifted creature? Since you know what happened between this subspace gifted creature and me, you should also. It's only clear that I have no sworn relationship with him. And, if you ask me about things, what can you give me in return? You have to understand that I am a domain lord, and you are a junior powerhouse in the galaxy, but it is completely different beings. If you talk to me like this, you have already violated the rules of the strong in the universe." The leader of the leading domain said calmly, and then scanned concubine Kun's body up and down with his eyes, trying to see if this female insect creature had any easy targets. For the strong men in the universe, different races are really not a big problem, because if they only stick to the same race, I am afraid that the strong men will have no partners. After all, it is very small for two strong men and women to appear in the same race. A matter of probability. What's more, in the later stages of development, everyone's aesthetics have changed. They no longer only look at the appearance of external creatures. Although most creatures still prefer races similar to themselves, and their aesthetics also identify with existences similar to themselves. But they are very liberal in this regard. For example, the Lord of the Mountain Green Territory can like girls from all races, and he doesn't even like the females of his own race. The concubine Kun in front of her was a very beautiful being, both in terms of strength and appearance, so when the leader of the territory Yin took one look at her, he felt hot all over his body. Concubine Kun naturally understood his gaze immediately, because she had already enjoyed too many similar gazes in the starry sky. Even the original Lord of the Mountain Green Territory fell in love with her because of her appearance. "Haha, can't I treat you with this attitude? Territory Lord Yin, or should I say, Senior Yin? You may not know who I am. If you did, you might not speak to me like this." After hearing this, The leader of the leading domain suddenly narrowed his eyes. What do you mean by saying this? Could it be that, you are still a big influence? The leader of the leading domain looked away and was startled. That's right, it's possible for such a beautiful female creature to be accepted by a powerful domain lord. In this black hole area, he can lead the territory lord as strong as possible, but it is far from being rampant in all directions. At most, he can only occupy a small area at the edge of the black hole area and plead with the strong territory lord in the black hole area. Power, don't come to trouble yourself. So if the other party was the wife and concubine of a powerful domain lord, then he really didn't dare to think too much about it. Even looking at the other party's body, he felt that it was very dangerous. Although the creatures in the universe take loyalty less seriously than the people on Earth, at least when the two parties are still in a partnership, they must not touch their partner, otherwise they will form a deadly feud. Haha, Senior Yin Territory Lord, are you afraid? Well, I won't tell you more. You can investigate my information after I leave. I believe that if you investigate, you will feel that giving me the information is the right thing to do. Concubine Kun said calmly. What she was talking about was not just the concubine of the Lord of the Mountain Green Territory. Concubine Kun dared to leave Shanlu to look for Jia Yan. First of all, she believed in Jia Yan's talent in subspace and could take her to escape after accepting her. Another point was that Concubine Kun's family was not a small family, but had it is a big family where two senior domain lords sit. Unfortunately, she is the granddaughter of two senior male and female domain lords. Although she is not the only granddaughter, the relationship is not bad. Even for the sake of face, these two senior domain lords territory lords will all stand up for her. Maybe the Mountain Green Territory Lord might not think too highly of the two of them, but at least he would be concerned. But this ordinary territory lord creature in front of me, oh, is probably as powerful as the original Zerg Queen. A territory lord of this strength is just an ordinary territory lord here. At least he didn't have the courage to face the anger of the three senior domain lords, so he didn't dare to show any disrespect to Concubine Kun unless he was prepared to live a life of escape and wandering. You are. The leader's face changed, and he looked at the female creature in front of him. Although he was very reluctant to believe the other party's threatening words, he took a closer look at her appearance. It was so perfect, and he immediately half believed it. After all, a perfect creature usually has a good family behind her. Coupled with the other party's determined attitude, it shows that she is really confident. Find bookstore. Maybe even before she came to his force, she had a backup plan in place. If she couldn't get out, the backup plan she left behind would become a weapon that could destroy the force. For the sake of a female, he would risk his own power and even lose his life. He would not do such a thing. For the territory lord, although the female creatures of the first level of the galaxy are rare, they are definitely not what they are looking for. If not, just go to the outside of the black hole area and find some forces that don't have a domain lord to take control of, and capture the female elementary creatures of the galaxy at will. So he wouldn't be so stupid. Well, Miss Kun, I will tell you what information you want as much as possible. As long as it is not a threat to me and my power, I can answer you. But please remember, once you leave, I will immediately investigate your information. If I find out that you are deceiving me, the consequences will not be something you can bear. I want to know all the information about this subspace gifted creature, what he looks like, and then it is best to have his video records, sound records, plus the direction of his coming and going, etc. Of course, if you are closer, I need all the information about him that I found out during the investigation, okay. Text download address. Phone reading. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 2376. Facing concubine Kun's extremely obvious question of wanting to know the intelligence of that subspace-gifted creature, the territory lord's expression was uncertain. He didn't know what the coming female creature actually meant by asking him for information on the creature he was hunting. Could it be that that subspace talent caused big trouble somewhere? If that's the case, then what if you tell him the information? Anyway, this subspace talent creature is just a powerful subspace talent. He told her that there would be others chasing this creature in the future, and maybe they would drive it into their own capture net, so that she could get revenge. Back then, the space powerhouse destroyed his own power quite severely. Miss Kun, I can tell you the information about him, but if you want to arrest him, you can give me a piece of information then, and I will do my best to help. That's it. The information I investigated is that this strong man came from outside the black hole area, and then. Concubine Kun listened to the other party's words, with a pair of radiant eyes flashing with brilliance. Not long after, this colorful female creature flew out, attracting the power of the domain lord. Behind him, the uncertain Yin territory lord looked at the departing figure with a strange expression, his eyes flashing with various thoughts. However, this look became relieved after a while. No matter what, she probably went there to cause trouble for that guy. Although I don't know what it means, I don't want to see the guy from that space again a second time. That's right, this leader of the territory is the leader of the force who hunted Jia Yan in the black hole area before. It's just that the pursuit of Jia Yan to the heavens and the earth had no effect at all. Later, because he went to inquire around, many forces around him knew that their forces had offended a galaxy-level person in the subspace, and even a human being. They couldn't catch them, and they became a source of laughter. Therefore, the leader of the leading territory gave up the pursuit long ago. In the following few years, he has become an extremely Buddhist type and no longer cares about the matter of space-endowed creatures. It can be seen that even if I don't care about the guy in that space, he doesn't seem to want to live a peaceful life. Hey, okay, just because he is the top of the middle-level space galaxy, he wants to run rampant in the black hole area? This is absolutely I'm looking for death, and I don't have to take revenge myself. There will always be someone to avenge me. The leader of the leading domain smiled and entered the residential area of the main star of his own power. But what he never expected was, when another hour passed, an earth-shattering terrifying force swept across the subspace, without giving this force any chance, and struck directly. Boom 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 boom. Between the heaven and the earth, there is a great power, suddenly emerging from the distance of the sky like a stormy wave. This power is too terrifying. It is undoubtedly some kind of terrible stormy wave. It does not give any creature within the force the slightest chance. It comes fiercely and is frighteningly powerful. Who? What a terrifying power, this is the territory lord. What's going on? He attacked our forces as soon as he came. Is he the territory lord who has a big grudge against us? But we have not offended such a territory lord. It's a pity that our power also has a territory lord. How can it be possible if a territory lord comes? Haha, a territory lord dares to break into the center of our force. Although our force has fought few territory lord battles, the territory lord in our force is not bad at all. At least he is an ordinary territory lord. Existence, not to mention that in the central region of our power, there are many ways to deal with the territory lord. With the addition of the two, the invading territory lord will definitely be unable to survive. Puff. The speaking force beings were swallowed up by energy in an instant, and they didn't even have time to let out their final screams. And what's even more terrifying is that among these existences, one is actually a strong person at the beginning of the galaxy. In other words, the coming territory lord caused heavy casualties to the forces with just a wave of power emanating from the space. And people with a discerning eye discovered that at this moment, their proud first domain master, the Yin domain master, had actually taken action. but his attack was like a mantis using his arms as a chariot. In an instant, his brainwave power was swept away by the incoming energy, without any blocking power at all. Who is this? The leader of the Yin territory, who was among the Yin forces, was stunned, and then his expression became sinister. Just from the collision of this blow, he understood that his combat effectiveness was definitely far behind that of his opponent. This person has at least reached the level of terror among ordinary domain lords. Although he is said by his subordinates to be a mid to high-level existence among ordinary domain lords, he himself understands that his combat effectiveness and strength are in this black hole area. Basically, he is just an extremely ordinary domain master. Otherwise, how could he go to the edge of the black hole to form a force? To form one, just go to the black hole area and click on it. This is definitely a strong man who is much more powerful than me. I can't afford to offend such a strong man. However, he comes to attack my seduction power. If I escape, all these years of hard work will be completely in vain. The Yin territory lord's expression was extremely solemn. Beside him, a huge crack appeared, and inside this crack were bursts of radiant space. The area within this gap is the famous ability of the domain master, the talent of the gravitational wave system. With this talent, he is actually about the same as subspace talent. He can freely come and go in the gravitational wave system, and his speed is no weaker than those with subspace talent at the same level. This is also what leads the domain master to fight even if he is strong. He is not much stronger than others, but he still has a key position among the nearby forces. The existence of a territory lord with subspace talent will be feared by almost all territory lords, so naturally the existence of a gravitational wave talent like him will be feared and even feared by many territory lords. If you can't beat and run away, if you beat and then come back to fight again and again, this is a method of operation for the gravitational wave system and the subspace talent system. It also makes countless domain masters feel extremely attached to the existence of these two talents. Disgusting reasons. After all, these two talents are like slippery loaches. If they can't defeat you, they will run away, but you can't catch up. Today, the two talents met together, but there was no overly intense back and forth. Instead, the existence that came from the subspace defeated the leader of the domain in front of him in one breath. No matter what, let's enter the gravitational wave space first. There was a ruthless look in the eyes of the Yin territory lord. He understood that no matter what the reason was, those who came were still attacking them, that is, they were enemies, and they were hostile. So since he can't defeat him, he will not put his life on the communication effect with the enemy. Instead, he will quickly escape into the gravitational wave space that makes him most at ease, and then deal with the opponent. After all, he has a gravitational wave talent. If you really want to talk about it, even if he is a good player among ordinary domain masters, as long as he can gain a foothold in the gravitational wave, then there is no need to be afraid of the existence of subspace talents. The strength of both parties, the slight difference will be made up for by the difference in talent system. Although he cannot enter subspace, the enemy cannot enter the gravitational wave to pursue him. Then it will be a deadlock, and he will have bargaining chips. Click. Different from the tearing feeling in subspace, when the gravitational wave system is torn apart, there is a weird mechanical clicking sound. As long as I enter, there will be nothing he can do to me. There was joy in the voice of the leader. Oh. As long as you go in, I will be helpless with you. Although this may not necessarily be the case, but since you have this kind of confidence, I won't let you in. Suddenly, in the ears of this domain lord creature, there was a sound of brainwave power that was strange and yet strangely familiar. What? In the subspace next to me? Shock me. The leader of the Yin territory felt chills all over his body. He was suddenly startled, and a fierce look surged in his eyes. You know, he has made too many preparations for that mid-level peak creature of the subspace galaxy, because even if he is a strong man at the Domain Lord level, if he wants to take revenge on a subspace talent, all he needs is one who doesn't be careful, he may find a chance to escape. So how could he not have thought of any way to deal with it all these years? I just didn't expect that I would actually use this technique today to deal with this mysterious Domain Lord level subspace powerhouse. But since it is a subspace talent, the method he prepared should have a certain effect. Buzz. A strange subspace shaking suddenly appeared around the leader of the domain, causing the entire nearby subspace to collapse. Territory Lord level existence, the means used to deal with another Territory Lord will naturally not be weak. Even the methods used to deal with the existence of subspace talents cannot be underestimated. It's a pity. If this move is used to deal with a strong person with subspace talent who is at the peak of the mid-level galaxy, it will definitely have a huge effect, but if it is used to deal with a strong person with domain-level subspace talent, then this effect almost equal to nothing. Yin yin yin. Many cracks suddenly opened in the subspace, and these cracks even split to more than 4 or 5 degrees of the subspace in an instant, completely destroying the subspace in this part of the area. If it were another subspace powerhouse, even the talented mid-level peak subspace powerhouse of the galaxy who had led the Domain Lord to hunt before, he might be bombarded by this wave and be so shocked that he could not move. Then you can take advantage of the situation and kill him. But at this time, he was facing a subspace talented domain master with even more outstanding subspace abilities. He no longer expected to be able to frighten the opponent with this kind of move. He just wanted to use this hand to make the other party slow down a little so that he could take the opportunity to enter the gravitational wave space. In this way, the two sides were almost equal. Oh! There is such a powerful method. At this moment, the creature that suddenly arrived in the subspace seemed to be a little surprised and let out a soft sigh. But he was just amazed that the veteran Domain Lord was different and actually had the means to deal with subspace creatures at his fingertips at all times. But he was not really affected by the explosion. I saw this mysterious creature coming, calmly throwing out a slender foot in the subspace, and then, the subspace in front of him seemed to be smoothed by this foot, and it straightened into a smooth state. Even those subspace areas that were blasted away by the bombardment, whether it was the fourth-dimensional subspace, the third-dimensional subspace, or the first-dimensional subspace, all became stable under the thrust of this foot, and then gave the foot he made room and stabbed out with an understatement. What? You can't even delay it? Although he had long calculated that the method he used to deal with the interspace talents of the mid-level peak of the galaxy would definitely not have much effect when used on this Territory Lord, the Territory Lord did not expect that his method would actually you won't even be able to delay the other party's arrival. But the speed is still a little slower. I have time to enter the gravitational waves? The Domain Lord looked ugly and suddenly used all his strength. As long as he entered the gravitational wave space, he felt that he would have the possibility of making a comeback. Otherwise, staying where he was would be a disaster. Click. One of his animal-like feet penetrated into the gravitational wave space. He felt like a fish in water, which made him slightly happy. There's a show. This strong man looked happy. Oh, it turns out that wanting to escape from the gravitational wave space is a good reaction, but... The coming subspace talented domain master's expression was full of sarcasm. When the leading domain master was about to escape into the gravitational wave space, he suddenly accelerated slightly. Puff. The domain master never expected that just before he entered the gravitational wave space, the approaching enemy in the subspace behind him would actually break through as planned with him at the critical moment. He traveled through space and came to the back of his Domain Lord. Not good. The leader of the Yin territory felt like 5 thunders were striking his head, and he no longer dared to turn his back to the approaching enemy, so he turned his head as soon as he noticed that the visitor behind him appeared outside the subspace. At the same time, he launched a counterattack. The final counterattack in the battle between trapped beasts is extremely terrifying. Even in the starry sky, the weak defeat the strong from time to time. The current situation is exactly what a strong man bursts out with all his strength and then defeats the enemy. The beginning stage of good words. Of course, nice words are because the probability of happening is relatively small, otherwise it would not be a good word. He exploded with all his strength, and he was definitely no match for this strong man. This was the strong self-awareness of a strong man. It was not that he was belittling himself, but that if he could feel that he had even a slim chance of fighting, he would definitely be able to do so. It was a return attack. It was precisely because the gap was so large that he did not dare to turn around and start a fierce battle with the enemy. Therefore, without the intervention of outside forces, except for the possibility of escaping, the probability of other kind words and miracles happening is really too low. Text download address. Phone reading.